You're about to watch a fascinating interview with Myles Gibson, a man that has dedicated almost his entire existence to the pursuit of the country's finest carp. He is an out-and-out big carp angler. He is carp fishing to his core. He is inspiring, he is passionate, he is everything you would expect from a man that wants nothing more than to catch big carp. He's interviewed by our very own Richard Stewart. I'm sure you're going to love this interview, and if you use the code Myles Gibson, all in capitals, when subscribing via the Topography website, you will find loads more just like this. And with that code, we have a little something in store for you.
I feel like our intro always the same now, Al, which is like this. Myles, thank you very much for inviting us down to the heart of the Cotswolds into what is a bit of a new thing for you, a bit of a spanking. I think you've been cleaning up, haven't you? This is a nice lodge.
Yeah, a lot of cleaning. Got this, well, about 2 weeks now, I've had it for. I came down here for the first time in March. It's the missus' birthday, sort of looking somewhere to get away for a few days, see a bit of fishing as well. Yeah, came down here, fished the lake, and it was just by chance really, just sort of walking around along the site and a little for sale sign in the window, obviously a mobile number underneath it. So yeah, took the number down. It wasn't sort of straight away, sort of played with the ideas, and I'd just sold a house. It was literally the amount of money that we'd sort of come off the house had landed in the bank, and it was exactly the same amount of money as buying the lodge. So yeah, a bit as an investment as well. And after spending a bit of time fishing this area years ago, I was always sort of mad keen to, I wouldn't say live in this area, but get a base in this area. It's a beautiful part of the country. So yeah, it kind of ticks a lot of boxes. Obviously, like we're right on the lakefront as well. So yeah, got the lodge, spent the last few weeks here, decorating, cleaning, repainting, etc. Just getting it ready for letting, yeah.
So you're going to be an adopted Cotswolder.
Kind of, yeah.
And it is something you've talked about for years, to be fair. I mean, like probably, since Oxford days or before? In fact, you came down here a long time ago, didn't you?
2007 was the first time we ever sort of travelled to the Cotswolds. The first time I came to this area, and it was fishing. And yeah, it's just much more a slow down sort of pace. Everyone seems really happy, there comes to the conclusion they're either on holiday or rich in this area, so everyone's buzzing, just a really nice place to be, really lovely people, and as well, we're surrounded by so much water. The sat-nav goes blue, and a lot of big carp as well,
A lot of them, unfortunately, sort of the bankside accessible in the Cotswolds is kind of constricted a bit.
Limited for the amount of water there is.
Yeah.
If it's obviously there's a lot of private lakes, syndicates. Clubs. Years ago there was much more accessible water via clubs. Now they're still under command of clubs, but not as easy as going into the tackle den, say, and purchasing the ticket. You still can purchase a number of tickets, and go and fish for some big fish around this area.
So you would have been like, would you have been 16, Myles, when you first came down?
Yeah, around that age.
Talk to me a little bit about the culture of travelling south. And we've talked to, it seems to be a real theme that the guys that we have had on from the north have all started to make their way down.
There's a lot more bigger fish. There's a lot more water, there's a lot more fish, and then therefore there's going to be less anglers on them ponds fishing for them. Around the north, classic examples like Reedsmere and so on, they were like the creme de la creme of that area, And at one point I can remember fishing for probably 18, 30 pounders in there, with the big and I was like single scale of the snub at the time, we'd gone 38 pound. That was, anyone was fishing for those fish in that area. And once you spent your 4, 5, 6 years, however long fishing, and you ticked off a number of them ones off the list, it was kind of a natural progression. Friends had sort of gone, you'd hear stories of lakes, and I remember like Brian the Miner and Mark the Bull was fishing on Reedsmere, and they spent the summer and the autumn fishing over on Stoneacres. Then they come back over Reedsmere like November time, showing you pictures of fish, like 39 pound, great big long linears. Just another level, and you're thinking, oh, it's 3 hours away. Financially as well, you're only a young lad, but when you realise the logistics of it, it's 50 quid or a lot more now, but at the time, 50 quid in the van, 3 hour drive, and if you can string them 2 or 3 nights together at your disposal, logistically it wasn't that hard once you started doing it. And obviously young lad, you're going up there on your own, it's quite unnerving. you don't know anyone, you don't know any of the lakes as such. But it's just a massive adventure, do you know what I mean? You can't but strive off it, I suppose, yeah.
It's fair to say, I think, that carp fishing obsession came to you quicker and more intense than probably most people, didn't it?
I've just, you know, I mean, I love fishing. It's the hunt, it's the chase, it's everything about it. It's the graft involved, the build-up, the outdoor life. You know, the people that you meet, you know, it only ever gets more and more and more. You know, you hear people saying, oh, because surely you could burn out. I mean, I've been offered the position to fish full-time and so on. 3 nights a week keeps me buzzing. I could almost go home wanting to stay, but I love my outside life as much as my fishing, you know, and especially now sort of going into the property side of things. Love it, you know, I get that obsessed and that into my work as much as my fishing, so I'm buzzing to go home and I'm buzzing to get back, you know.
I think it's a personality thing as well, Myles, and I think something we may as well talk about straight off the bat is, you know, you're quite a unique guy who's able to focus intensely on, like you just said then, on whatever is in hand.
Yeah.
Do you think that is as much of a curse as a blessing at times? Your obsessiveness?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the sense of, especially when you're going onto lakes and you're visually seeing everything from a boat. I mean, you're first hand seeing how accurate you have to be. How, you know, when you're going away from that, certain spots that may feel right, you go out there and they're at the side of the spot. You're seeing all that so much. So to, you know, when you're leading around on a spot, that level of paranoia, if you like, is so enhanced. It might take 100 chucks at a spot, a few more feet off the clip. Just to know everything around that area is just, every minute on that, you know, like when your rod's in the water, it has to be fishing 100%. Otherwise, what's the point in being there? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I've been with you on lakes and seen how frustrated you get, how angry you get, and until it's right.
Well, you're putting your all into it, you know. You put a lot of things in life on hold to be there. Obviously, it adds pressures onto relationships and everything to be there. Because that consistency you're fishing, once you're rolling and you're wanting to be there 3 nights a week, you know, you can't miss a week because it's like almost hitting the reset button. You're prepping spots, it needs to see it. So, yeah, to break that, it's very, you know, it's quite intense. But I've always sort of like manufactured my life around it. Never, I mean, we've all pulled the extra night and so on. But like I say, keeping it to that 3 nights, life is 4. Fishing's 3, life is 4, you know. That's how I've always tried to keep it, yeah.
And have you struggled to keep that in check at times, or?
Oh yeah, and then, well, more so, you know, when that once a year opportunity will arise on a big pit, you know, big lake in the Cotswolds, everything just timed perfectly. You couldn't have read it any better. I turn up, fresh northeasterly, blast into this big bay with record of the big one. Turned up, I'd catch them, I'd pack up, I'd leave, the wind would spin round to like back to a southerly. The day I was mooring, I'd get back in the swim, fresh northeasterly, you know, and they'd be getting on it. I was a bit of a loss with that, where I was going with it.
It's about that pulling the extra time and struggling
Yeah,
to
yeah,
balance
yeah.
it.
Sorry. So I can remember that sort of coming in and caught a couple. Come on the next trip, managed to catch a couple. You know, and it's, if you can get 10 bites a year out of this pit, it's good fishing. It's very, very hard fishing. Big and hadn't been out for a number of years. You know, and it was like, I felt like this is the time I've got to pull a swerve. Rearranged some work first, managed to do that. So I was like, spoke to the missus at the time. She went nuts. No, but I blocked her. I'd never done it before, but I was like, I'm staying regardless. I'm not listening to the shit. Block.
You blocked her number?
Yeah, I couldn't, I had to stay. But it was all in vain. Never caught a thing. I mean, I caught them in the 3 nights that was there, had to go, didn't go, stayed thinking, nah, this is it, this is me, this is my window. I did like 7 nights. The next 4 was nothing.
Was this when you were fishing for Leon's?
Yeah.
What was it like when you rolled back up at home?
Oh yeah, shit, the fun. Like, no, I can never do it again. I couldn't ever do that again. No, it's not worth it. End of the day, it's a carp, innit? But at that time, you're thinking, well, no, because this opportunity, it might not arise again, you know? It was there, and I felt like I had to take it. But like I say, there's so much of it's in vain, innit? You think I give it another half an hour or pull another night, it looks good. And more often than not, you know, when you have your moment. And
your kind of obsessiveness that we've mentioned, how does that play out in lots of real life, if you like, inverted commas?
Oh yeah, bad. I mean, things have got to be a particular way, you know. I'm very, very particular in like my work. I mean, I hate mess. Do you know what I mean? It's just the way I am with things. If I'm going to do something, I'll do it to the absolute best of my ability. And if I come away from it and go back to it and I feel like it's not, I can rip it up and smash it up and start it again, you know, until I am absolutely looking at it thinking, that's the bollocks. Can't be any better. Same with like the rods out or a job satisfaction when you come away and you're looking at a job when you've finished it, you know, you look at it and if you're vibing off it, then you think, surely, I mean, if there's a customer base, then obviously they're going to be buzzing with it. You know, I can't do any better than that. I've done as best as I can. And until it's that mindset, then there's no chill.
I've heard it said that, you know, that you might even, you know, have a sort of spectrum, disorder, almost like ADHD type thing. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about? Is that the level we're talking about?
I've never sort of researched. I mean, I used to take a lot of Ritalin, prescribed Ritalin when I was younger. ADHD, ADD. I mean, it's like attention deficit sort. I mean, like in school and stuff like that. Yeah, if it didn't really interest me, if it wasn't something that didn't really interest me, I suppose, or that into it, you'd never really give it your all focus. You know what I mean? But whereas obviously fishing, you know, you'd have to take these tablets in school just to mellow out. I mean, it's pure speed, like methylphenidate. You'll take it, you'll be off your tits. I take it, I'll sit here like as level as you can get. You know, it's like a neurological imbalance in your brain, so on and so on. But it's definitely that obsessiveness comes from traits from that.
Yeah.
But I mean, fishing was always. I mean, my parents certainly could never sort of understand it, nor my teachers at school. I mean, I was a bastard. I mean, I really was a naughty kid. You know, you'd act and then think. It's always been like that. You know, we don't think about the consequences. And obviously, as you grow up and you mature a lot more, I think you kind of grow out of them sort of things. But yeah, definitely with the fishing, that got to be so particular. You know, you build an image in your mind, and unless it matches that image or that feel, you know, we all do it. You might replay the moment of catching the one you want to catch a million times, or when you've got your rods out in your spot. You know, I'm visually thinking, well, I know I've got a mental picture from that many leads over it, or if it's been in the boat, I know how my rig, you know, I can know exactly, as if I'm looking over a boat at it, in my mind, it will be sitting like that.
And until you achieve that, it's got to go again, got to go again, got to go again.
Go, yeah.
I mean, I think it looked like the most attritional fishing ever when we came to film with you at Denton and when you were largely in peg 4. Bit of a wind on, like it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'd have given up,
hard
mate.
work, yeah. But, you know, you could be stood there, and it sounds daft, you know, 4 or 5 hours mauling, trying to get your rods out in crosswinds, thinking, well, I've got an hour window at the end of the day when the wind's going to drop. But when you're putting your rods out, you know, with them, you know, like 3 rods all on different spots or out at range, well, as you see from them, you know, you're out in the boat, you're checking your back or you're baiting up and it's a lot of backwards and forth, and, you know, it's exhausting, and especially you're so close to the path on there. If you had a few through the night, you can never get a kip in the day. You know, you'd be asleep an hour, then there'd be someone shouting the dog or a dog running, then you swim. So yeah, it's exhausting, but I would go back to that, I'll leave it to that little window when I've got a chance. If someone was to go tits up in that little window, you know, frap up, weed bed, just something went wrong, that you haven't got an hour, you know what I mean? You ain't going to get it done in an hour. You're wasting your time. So it was, you know, persistence. Even though you might get 2 rocking and think, right, I've got an hour now to play with this rod. But yeah, you have to analyse everything and look forward, you know what I mean? Thinking, it's only previous traumas and being sat there with no rods in the water, fucking thumb up your arse, you know what I mean? Thinking, right, that can't happen again. You learn by your mistakes, don't you?
At which point is it fun for you?
Oh, it's all fun. Well, don't get me wrong, you piss it, no. It can do your tits in, con it, don't get me wrong, if you're constantly at it, grafting away. But I mean, it's work, isn't it? You know, you're putting in, driving, baiting. I can remember a number of times, once on Denton, big algae blooms, you know, 9 trips on the bounce, not a bite. Now on a 90-acre pit with 400 carp in it, you know, you're thinking, okay, you know what I mean? I should be able to work something together. But no, like nothing. You know, it wasn't. You just couldn't effectively fish. The place had gone green, bait rotting all over the lake. Of course, without the weed beds at the surface, you get your rods out. 20 minutes, you know, weed bergs everywhere, just wiping you out. You physically can't keep a rod in the water. So yeah, there's only so much that you think I'm wasting my time. So I'd go over to White Swan for a little bit until, you know, it sort of sorted itself out a little bit. So yeah, I certainly won't waste my time, if you like.
Is there an element of you working harder than everyone else? You have to be the last man standing in that sense. Are you going to be the last guy that gives into the weed bergs, for instance?
Yeah, it always seems to be that case, yeah, because obviously, you know, you're thinking, well, everyone else is gone now, so now's an edge. Let's up, like, it's not a good time to up things, though, 'cause obviously it's a natural, not disaster going on the lake, but the carp certainly, you know, oxygen's low, the pace is like pea soup. Obviously, there's big changes going along it, and with that, massive areas of naturals are exposed, do you know what I mean? So, the natural farmers, their own environment, aren't they? You know, they're onto a good thing. Mm.
I want to drag us back onto your early stuff before we head down south, because my memory is that you started sort of big carp fishing very. In fact, it was your first carp was big, wasn't it?
24 pounder.
Yeah.
Yeah, first ever carp. Yeah, I think that's more lucky than sort of, you know, going for it. Again, it was the lake though. You know, it wasn't a lake full of little ones. Boundary Water Park, 16 acres. I think at the time I had about 70 carp in it. You know, so they certainly weren't ripping off all the time. But I was just fishing with like a rod, an old 1 3/4 river rod. You know, put 8 pound line on it. I had an old tonic that you used to screw up in the middle. And it'd be a feeder, worms. You just spend all your days punishing everyone, do you know what I mean? Wanting to learn everything. But yeah, then I remember one day, I was bream fishing and I saw this massive common jump out 30 yards, skipped the rod in, rammed as many pieces of sweet corn in my feeder as possible, put on the biggest hook in my tackle box, just loose, a size 4 hook, you know, covered it in sweet corn, wallop. Gone to the shop, come back and my rod's back line's just going mad. You know, got one, 24 pounder. And then I'd like to say it was from them. I mean, I was always hooked from fishing. I've done a lot of swing tip fishing, a lot of bream, tension, that sort of fishing. But then to actually hook something of that scale and that size, you know, arms wrapped round it, 9-year-old kid sort of style. I suppose that's the start of.
Yeah, and how quickly.
It's like your first hit, innit? You know, you're chasing that then. You know, it's the only way to put it.
How quickly it seemed like you were on. Right. Probably a good point to mention that you've got a rod out at the minute. So
yeah, we've got to.
It seemed like you were on Reedsmere pretty quick and pretty young, and it seemed I was getting told at the time. I remember speaking to a lad who was like, "You need to look at this Myles Gibson kid. Like he lives and breathes it." I think you were probably like 17-ish at that time.
I think I've started fishing Reedsmere. Well, I started at school for 15.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've spent solid sort of carp fishing, you know, every opportunity from like 9. So although it sounds early, you know, I'd sort of spent 4 or 5 years fishing other ponds. Not to say that I was certainly ready to go on to Reedsmere and start catching fish, you know, it was a massive step up at the time. But I can remember like me and mates used to catch 5 or 6 20s a year, you know, fishing the farm ponds, loads and loads of doubles. And Reedsmere, you know, you'd read about, you know, I remember reading articles, Martin Allerton, Gaz Fairham. You'd be seeing these pictures in the mainline section, you know, Brian and Miner, seeing these sort of boys in the magazine. And of course, anything to do with carp related, you know, even the old bloody diary at school was covered in pictures of carp, you know, it was just obsessive, you know, like from the start. And I suppose when you're going on there and you're seeing them faces, you're like that. You know, it's quite intimidating as a young lad. And I suppose the first sort of year, if you like, pretty much lived in the pines, you know, right near the car park, swim that didn't do many fish. Out the way, got left alone. So as that, you kind of got left alone in there. Then obviously, as you sort of find your feet, you meet 1 or 2 lads. You're sort of venturing around the pond. But yeah, I can remember one time being on the stream, and next thing you know, I think Brian and mine has come down, Mark the Bull, Pred, just setting up in the stream, and they're like, "Oh, you getting in there?" I was like, "Yeah." Oh, I wanted to get in there, and then naturally, I can remember saying it. "Oh, I'll go next door if you want," because you was that like, you know. Well, they're the boys that are doing it. I'm kind of feel like a bit of a shouldn't be there, but do you know what I mean? It's intimidating, I suppose, was the only word. You know, you kind of put them up here on this pedestal from them being in the magazines for these 30 pounders, and then to go on and actually, you know, like they're just next door, mate. You know, it was a massive step up, yeah. But you can't but learn from that. You know, you're surrounded by what I'd regard as some of the best anglers in the Northwest, fish for some of the best fish in the Northwest.
And you'd put yourself up there straight away. You'd put yourself on the water where the best were fishing, probably a lot earlier than most people would have.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember a couple. Like, there's another lad my sort of age that had done a little bit previously. I always remember like a story of him catching the snubnose common in February, 36 pound. I think he was 16 at the time. You're kind of thinking, well, if he can, you know what I mean? If he can do it, every chance that I might get one of them big ones. And of course, it went for a little 2 or 3 years sort of on there. You know, eventually got my first 30 pounder. But you know, you're seeing them on the bank, and like I say, you're learning so much all the time.
Tell me about what you learnt from those guys, and how much of that is still in your fishing today.
I mean, it's drilled into, you know, if you're not up before first light, you're getting tipped off your bed chair by a couple of mates. Like literally, you know, they're up before first light. It's drilled into you. You're up before first light. You need to tell people what's going on in their swim, not just your own. You need to know what's happening on the lake. You know.
And who were the guys?
I suppose like Neil, Brian, Bully, you know, the sort of seasoned anglers who fished for 20, 30 years at the time already, you know.
So it's almost like a tough love thing for the kid on the lake.
Yeah. It's drilled into, you know, I can remember rig night, literally like rig nights, like sit there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning whipping up rigs, and then mate chuck some on your knee, right, better that, you know, and you'd be like fiddling around with all rigs, better that. Do you know what I mean? It was just, it might sound boring, like, but you know what I mean? Well, that's what we did. It was, we just sit there, you know, messing around with rigs, but it was constantly up at first light, listening from at night. I mean, obviously, so much more the finesse and the detail come from viewing from a boat, and obviously, I suppose, learning the hard way, like I say, being in situations, getting it wrong to get it right. But yeah, certainly like them key, you know, things that I suppose make you as an angler. Everything that anyone would ever caught, I'd imagine, it's based on what you see. You know, everything's on what you see. So it's your strongest tool in the box is your eyes.
And you learnt that quickly?
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt, yeah, it's drilled into on there. If you're not fast, you're last, you know? You'd be sat there sort of like youngest kid taking your stride, you're thinking it's all about the rigs, got my bucket of emp out there, do you know what I mean? It's September, so it's the meadow time, laughing. And then you'd wake up, you know, maybe not first light, you wake up and 2 of your mates were gone. Text, down the shallows, had one too slow. Do you know what I mean? You're like, ah, right, you really need to know, if you want them numbers of fish, you need to up your game, you need to be moving before they've even thought about it, do you know what I mean? So it'd be up in the morning, everything was kind of packed up, ready to move, so it was just fold your bed chair, down with the brolly, and then it was no barrier, you know, it's rod bag, rucksack, bed chair, bottle, literally, leg it.
And did you get to the point when you were beating those guys to the fish in the end?
Well, yeah, when I left school and I could be there all the time. But, you know, don't get me wrong, it's a busy, like, I was a case of Friday after school down, as opposed to like most working blokes now, but I was at school. And then I actually turned down the opportunity to go straight into an electrician apprenticeship. Obviously, looking back now, you're thinking, dickhead. But, you know, I'd saved up a few quid, I think about 2.5 grand over the course of the years, and I was thinking, I'm fishing until that runs out, you know, I just wanted to fish. And I did, I'd go on for 13 nights, sessions, I could remember it, go home, shower, restock up, back, anyone that was leaving, do you know what I mean? I'd be like, it was just a little bit of a known thing that you're going to drop me off what bait you got left, or, you know, a bit of food, or do you want a bit of this? And you're just a little tramp basically, living off everybody else's leftovers. But, you know, gone from like one fish my first year, lost my first couple, and got one in September. You know, nothing beat that first Reeves mate carp, I can remember, just incredible. Only £24. Then the next year, you know, like I say, you're sort of breaking away, you're doing a bit of your own thing. I caught 5. And then I can remember, like, it just clicked, you know what I mean? Something just clicked. And it's like, I know how to catch these. Although I had a hell of a lot more time at my disposal, you know, but caught 29 fish the next year. Top rod by 14 fish.
How did you catch them?
Just being on it. Learning that it's not all about filling it in, it's not all about bait. You just got to be where them carp are. Snowman's 2 bait stringers, where them carp go. And because I was there a lot and watching a lot, you also like learning about weathers. Not so much like air pressures and that lot's come much later on in the fishing, but you'd watch a new southerly spring up. Warm, shallows, roadside. Do you know what I mean? You're starting to put things together a little bit, and you're watching the weather and putting yourself in areas before then people needed to see the fish that had already moved to that area, because you kind of knew what they were going to do. So it was a lot of that you kind of learning and picking up, yeah.
Stuff that you have always found stood you in good stead since?
Like I say, it's the core base of everything is what you see. Like, it's all right chucking your bait out on a spot and keep putting it on a spot and putting it on a spot, but surely you've seen something to make you want to put it on that spot. You know what I mean? Surely you can turn up to a lake and just throw your bait in. Eventually, if it's left alone, the carp are going to use it, the carp are going to eat it. But when you sit and watch, you know, there's definitely preferred areas on certain weathers and so on, and getting them areas and spots prepped in them areas, it's just a repeat process until everything falls right then.
It seems mad that most of your contemporaries at 15, 16 would probably stay in bed till, you know, I'm sure I did when I was like, I don't mean on the bank, I mean people who did other stuff at weekends. They're probably staying in bed till 8, half 8. You've been up for hours.
Oh yeah.
having a coffee as a 15-year-old,
Oh yeah.
determined
Yeah.
to catch some of these ancient Reedsmere carp.
Yeah.
Did it seem different to what other people were doing with their lives?
I wasn't really bothered. I was just, I've always done my own. I've always been my own person, done my own thing. I mean, obviously, a lot of my mates as well were kind of carp anglers as well. Not to that. I don't want to say not to that level. They weren't. I don't want to make it sound like I never had a life outside of fishing. Don't get me wrong. I ate at age 18, 19. Friday night, Saturday nights were spent up getting pissed and chasing birds. But then I'd do my overnighters. Fishing never stopped. Do you know what I mean? It just maybe didn't come first for a little bit of a while. But yeah, that soon sort of mellowed out, and then you realise you're getting a lot of trouble doing that, so we'll go back fishing.
It always seems like your folks have been pretty supportive of your life choices, and was that always the case? Was that the case when you were kind of turning down apprenticeships to stay on the bank?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they've always known with me. Fishing is. I wouldn't like to say a saviour, you know what I mean, but I'm good doing that. You know what I mean. I'm not getting in trouble. I'm good doing that. So they'd always supported. They'd much rather me down the pond being looked after by Barry Big Tent than, you know what I mean, on the park, supping ciders and trying some. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, like
Barry Big Tent, a real person.
Yeah. He's a real dude. Yeah, he's still about as well.
Is he? Yeah. Tent got smaller or bigger over the years?
I don't know. But yeah, the old two-man hutchie apotheosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pole threading one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
Old Barry Big Tent.
In terms of the Reedsmere fish, apart from being on it and being ahead of them, did you find it like a spotty lake within the silt? Because obviously, a lot of us haven't fished those kind of meres. Like, what were you doing once you got into the swims?
I mean, like I say, a lot of it you spent that much time there, so you've seen and watched it happen. It's the meadow, for instance, that 70-yard band. Everyone sees bloodworm beds out there. Well, there probably was at some point, but at 70 yards, everyone's still thinking there's bloodworm bait. So then all your bait and buckets of remp going out there. Naturally, you're getting a cleaner sort of bottom. I mean, obviously, the silty meres, you're never going to get, you know what I mean, donk, gravel and so on. But obviously, they'll take the layers of silt down to firmer ground. And definitely spending time with just a lead, braid, bigger leads and searching out them firmer areas. Definitely an edge. And, you're making a mental note of those, and it's not all about loads of bait, do you know what I mean, on them sort of places. There's 100 and maybe 100 odd fish in the mere at that time. They're very mobile, you know what I mean. They'd be down the shallows, they'd be down the road end, they'd be off the meadow in the morning. Do you know what I mean? There's a bite to be had. There's always bites to be had if you fished and looked hard enough. So.
And you mentioned the bucket of hemp a few times. Was that a culture that you bought into?
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a. It's what the boys did, do you know what I mean? As you're sort of growing up down there, like referring back to like your Brian and your Bully and that, you'd watch them, and they'd all sort of like over a 2-week period, they'd all stitch it up. They'd just swap swims over an area, loads of hemp out there, sacks and sacks of it, and over the course of that time, they'd have a lot of bites.
Swim out.
All sorts of tricks got played up to on the mere. I've heard chaps swimming out with buckets, in the 50s, 60s, up with a bucket of dinghies, and all sorts of whatever got done. But obviously you get involved with that as you sort of, when you've been there a little while and you've got your own sort of group of mates, and it was very like, there'd be them boys over there using mainline, and there'd be them group of mates that used Prem, and then there'd be me, Jason, Dan that sort of like rolled their own. You're never against each other, do you know what I mean? But you'd always be like, your little group. Do you know what I'm saying?
Why on earth did you roll your own bait at that stage?
Just the amount of it for the cheapness as well. Me and Jace got into it quite a bit really. We were sort of making probably 300 kilo through the close season. And because he only lived right near to the mere, we'd be rolling bait all day, and then, we'd always save like 8 or 10 kilo, go down there feeding them all sort of through the close. I think we managed to give them about 100 kilo, it was 100 kilo each, give them 100 kilo. Then the start of the year, I can remember the first year, didn't have all that many on it. Second year I had 29 on it. That was that good year. And then the year after, mate Jason, he top rodded it. He had 31 fish that year. You could probably count on one hand the amount of lads had 30 fish out the mere in a season, So it made, all baits will catch them, but there's a lot of that going in, and all you had to do was get in on them. Whether they ate it or not was never a question. If you could get in an area where they were or they'd turn up, you catch them.
What was the bait based around?
just like a really, really rich with liver. We're using a lot of liver powder in there. A lot, really high levels of it.
Very soluble.
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of like plenty of bird foods in there, a couple of different fish meals, hemoglobin powder, we had that in there. My mate got mega into it, like researching like Dr. Jason, and it was, we want the bloods in there to wean them off the naturals, do you know what I mean? He researched everything upon everything, miles above me with bait. But anyway, we've ordered all this stuff, throwing all the base mixes together, mixing it all up in a cement mixer. And it's the first time I've ever done that at that sort of level. I'd always done like 6 egg mixes in the garage, but we're making hundreds, like a little factory going down here. Yeah, and that was mega, it was mega. And then a year later, another one of my mates, Ashes, he's jumped on it as well. So there's 3 of us rolling all the bait in the shed that year, putting it in. He had a good year on it. But it's just, you could open your freezer, when it was just full of boilers. It was great, you could nip down there, throw them in all the time. And I sort of buying it out the shops to start off with, and then had a bit of a mainline field test. I think it was $5.50 a kilo. Went for a stage of using, I think it was Mick Ball's bait, I don't know if you're still going, snail and shell masala, I think it was called. It was always them higher, them high quality fish meals that we sort of dominated them here. And whatever went in masses.
And did you develop the sort of Mulbs type of hook bait there? Because obviously Reed's was very, very synonymous with anglers fishing little high vis specials.
Yeah, I suppose that's where it's always come from. I mean, again, that used a number of sort of different blends of attractors, if you like, on the here. But yeah, certainly that mulberry one, without a doubt. I mean, it's got that longevity, like the smell. A lot of it would be, you could wind your baits in, sour as anything all over your lead. And there'd be pockets and areas of that lake, obviously with rancid ground, where they obviously didn't feed so much. But when you see them showing out in areas and you're chucking leads out to unknown ground, they were perfect. You know what I mean? They weren't going to, they'd certainly be fishing for a good 12 hours without being tainted, So yeah, that was a major edge on them sort of waters, and you felt like you could put a lot of bait in. When I say a lot of bait, I'm referring to like say 3 or 4 kilos of boilies round a float onto a spot. And it'd be 2 rods, just on, like 2 rods on there. But with 2 of them sort of high attract Mulbs on the top, it'd be a case of loads of bait to sort of draw them in, broken up ones and so on. But then you've got them 2 sort of super duper ones over the top. Always felt like you were getting the most out of everything. You could use a lot of bait to bring them in, use these super attractors, and you get the bites quickly as well. And rather than just 1 in the morning, you could possibly get 2 or 3. So yeah, definitely learned.
And that's something you still
the
use
power of them, on there. Yeah.
You still use that a lot, don't you? The whole snowman type setup. Yeah. I've seen you use it an awful lot over the years.
Yeah.
As opposed to match the hatch, which I mean, these were pressured carp, the Reedsmere fish. They were old fish in certain cases. Fish like the Cape Thorn Lynn. Been around the block.
Gotcha.
And you were catching them on presumably those bright ones.
Again, it's a very silty me. You're getting them feeding. They aren't like these gravel pits on the gravel spots. You think they're feeding. It's just like us talking now, nothing changes. But when they're on silt, all of a sudden it's foggy. Do you know what I mean? It isn't so much relying on your visual game. It's the attractors sort of within it, you know what I mean? And I'm sure they're searching them out much, much faster amongst that,
Before we leave Reeds, I think it'd be really nice to just take a quick spin through some of the real standouts. I mean, obviously, it's funny that the sort of synchronicity with the mention of the kid who caught the snub in winter, because obviously it was a fish that brought the curtain down for you, didn't it?
That's it was Paul Wild.
Right. Yeah. But the snub in winter was the fish that kind of finished it for you, wasn't it?
That was always the one, the snub. I sort of, again, I see single on the bank was the first 30 pounder I see on the bank. Then I seen the snub, and it was just, that's what became an obsession. It's Reedsmere snub. I remember looking at him in the magazines, Martin Allerton, all Reeds, little pads in the back shot, and it was, that was Reedsmere, kind of, I had to catch the snub, and it was, God, I think it was like 5th year I've been on there. But yeah, it was a bait in an area through the winter. But yeah, 27th of February, got him, £37.4. It was just,
Carp Talk, front cover of Carp Talk?
Possibly.
Certainly in there, wasn't it? I remember that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in there. I can't remember.
You were into that culture of like sending.
Send them off.
I'll tell you what it was. Crowe did an interview with you, didn't he?
It was
the first thing, first time you were ever in print, I think.
Right. Yeah.
A little double page spread, I think, with the snub.
Yeah, I can remember actually. Yeah. Mega.
Shame the male was gone. But I think, you know.
Caught the male.
Did you?
I was the last person to ever catch him. Yeah, before he died. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, £24. It was a shadow of its former self.
Yeah.
Literally, it was sinking into your hands when you sort of held him. But yeah, obviously a real historic fish.
I mean, on reflection, you got to hold not only some of the most prestigious Cheshire fish that have ever lived, but, you know, arguably a population of carp that would stand up against anything nationally at the time.
Oh God, yeah. And them Reesmere fish, they were awesome. I mean, going back to them, it's how old they were. Do you know what I mean? With there, that's what you were fishing for. It wasn't necessarily what they looked like. It was, you know, I mean, the lads that had held them before. They're literally 40, 50-year-old dinosaurs. You know what I mean? Swimming around the lake. That's what it was about. You know, the history, the characteristics of them, how hard they were to catch, and you know, you'd have sort of like the A-team and amongst your mates. You know what I mean? You might get one A-teamer a year. Do you know what I mean? And you slowly tick through them. You see your mate gets the one he wants, and it was just, honestly, it was an awesome place to spend time. It really was.
And beautiful as well.
Beautiful place, yeah. Stunning.
In many ways, you started out at, you know, a venue that would be tough to beat in terms of prestige and looks.
Oh God, yeah. For years, I can remember even mate Neil now, he's fished all over the country, but you know, always moving off the Mere and saying, never replace the Mere. That's not only for the fish, it was for the atmosphere of the place. You know what I mean? Even when you go down for a walk, it's got that. God, you could just see yourself brolly rods out, you know what I mean? You could just chill here, you know, it's nice. And it'll never lose that, you know, it's just, the place has got a magic about it, and there's no doubt about it, yeah. How
quickly did you realise, after you'd caught the snub, that the future was looking distinctly more southern for you?
It was more, again, you're spending times with, I used to fish a lot with my mate Neil at the time, and like I mentioned before, lads were sort of travelling, fishing Stoneacres, and we were hearing stories of monsters around the Cotswolds, you know, and open access tickets. Well, we'll share the driving, you drive 1 week, I'll do the next. So logistically, it became possible, you know, and that's what we did. We sort of made a plan, and then we come for a recce, you know, still snow on the ground, end of February. Massive pit, never fished anything of the size, you know, it was 120 odd acres.
And raw then?
Raw, yeah.
They've all grown up a lot in that time around here.
A lot. But yeah, I can remember getting there, you know, it's daunting, you're thinking, we didn't know anything about the lake, apart from it possibly had 2 very big carp in it. Obviously, as you spend a bit of time there and get to know a few people, looking for an old book, you know, and there was 15 30-pounders in this booklet, like, biggest 37, talk of these big ones, oh, no. But yeah, we see them anyway, like we see 2 very, very large carp that had fit the bill. And yeah, I spent a little bit of time on there, but that was the first place we travelled. Like I said, I was only young at the time. I'd drive 1 week, mate the next. He lived in Biddulph at the time, so I'd leave my van at his, he'd drive, and then, do you know what I mean, share the journeys. He ended up meeting, well, what's now his wife down there. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had a missus and everything that was going on down there, but basically met Laura. One thing led to another. He relocated to Swindon, so obviously that, you know what I mean, it was now all on your own to get down there, and financially it just wasn't doable at that age. Do you know what I mean? I'd, you know, getting your matey boy to lend me half a kilo of boilie and drop your pot noodles off before you left, do you know what I mean? Coming up with that money to go down there and fish how you need to fish it just wasn't doable. So I kind of come away from that and started, you know, going back on the Mere, I had single scale to try and catch, and obviously there's a few other fish, the Martino leather, there's the tatter fish, and there was a little bit of time to spend sort of around Cheshire at that time, yeah. And it wasn't until about, I think it was 2009, maybe 2008, started travelling to Leicester, a place called Charnwood. And again, that was only, well, you couldn't do nights there. I remember sort of a bit of a loose end with my fishing, caught single scale. I'd caught a number of the ones that I wanted to catch, 1 or 2 left out of Reesmere. But, you know, my interest was starting to go elsewhere. And yeah, Goldendale, sorry, that came before Charnwood. That was sort of like the next one. I remember hearing rumours of a big common in a free lake, right next to it, like a gypsy camp, really rough, but 35-pounder. And I can remember it was in Carp Talk. I think it was a chap called Russ Hall caught it at 35. You know, when it was a mega looking thing, and you're thinking, well, you just go on and fish for it, no ticket. So obviously, I think it's like November time, a bit of a loose end, didn't really know what to do. gone down there for the first sort of look. Of course, got eyes on it in the pads, and then that was it. Then the start of that obsession sort of started. You know, there's more to the world than reason. And yeah, sort of dabbled on there a little bit. And I was dabbling, I sort of fished on there a bit. I go back onto the Mere, ended up catching single. I did him a couple of times, but a good weight.
£38?
He was, yeah, 38.10, yeah, sort of late autumn. Like I said, I probably dabbled on and off the Dale for nearly 3 seasons. You get to a point where you know, quite late on in the year, then you get caught and you're thinking it's October now, I'll pull off, I'll go elsewhere. I remember once I'd sort of, again, it clicked on there how to catch them. And I'd gone from doing a lot of time for maybe 3 or 4 fish, thinking naturally, little lake, big carp, pick a spot in the middle, fill it in. It's only a matter of time, isn't it? Nah. Educated very much so on there, like, you know, they're freaks, eat all your bait, leave your rig for fun. They knew they're getting fish for. That's when you kind of learn that the little pits aren't like the big pits, you know. So much more aware of their surroundings. But yeah, got them nailed down. The next year, I think I had 17 or 18 bites in as many nights. You know, it's just a case of when it's going to turn up. I had a family holiday due, 10-dayer, and literally I hadn't come out, and I'm at day 9 thinking, I've got to get back. Last day I was sorting stuff out. Just got a flurry of messages. Miller's just had it. First time it's gone 40. Thinking, oh, as much as it was buzz for it, the fish to go 40, thinking, oh, I knew that was my turn. Do you know what I mean? It was then. But as luck would have it, I went straight back on, carried on, and caught it. Its next capture. But yeah, mega.
41?
Mega. Yeah, 41-2 he was. Yeah, just a couple of ounces short of when Dave had him. Yeah. Well, yeah, probably
mega. In the fish's pomp, you'd have to say, because obviously in latter years it dropped weight dramatically, didn't it? But
God, yeah.
Pumped up then.
Yeah, mega. I mean, that was kind of on its way up. Do you know what I mean? He'd sort of its second capture at £40, and I think it was maybe that sort of weight for a season or 2. Remember, little Rob had it at a good weight. I think he might have been its biggest weight, 42 or 43 then. And then yeah, it just slowly.
How did you cope with the colourful nature of the fishing on the Dale, in terms of like the locals and what have you?
It's part of the parcel, you know. Every lake's got its challenges. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a little bit unnerving on there at times.
Little Rob got shot at, didn't he?
Yeah, it's madness. My mate got shot in the back of the leg with a gat gun. They're just ruthless little shits, really. Do you know what I mean? They are. Be on your chest quite a lot at the top, you know, where the old hut was, watching them. Little ginger kid, he's a nightmare. I mean, they're only 12, 13. You used to be the same, you'd go out for a Lego, wouldn't you? But yeah, keep on the back, boys. It's the worst thing you ever say to them. Wallop, have a brick on your spot, do you know what I mean? You're like, ah, the big one's there, looking up for it, yeah. Brick, had it a few times. Nightmare. But then again, you put there so much, this carp was a freak, it'd clean out all the time. Seeing a kid, literally a 10-year-old kid, chuck out a float with a piece of luncheon meat, a foot underneath it, fucking got it. So you're thinking, wow. And I, honestly, big-eyed banked, he's got it, and he's just chucked it back. We're watching from the other side, obviously, but I thought that's what he wanted to do with him, mate.
Well, at least he went back.
Yeah.
Because that would.
But it's a rough place, you know. I've seen literally kids wallop a swan, you know what I mean, broke its neck, killed it. People shooting, you don't want to be a bird on that lake, do you know what I mean? There's loads of ball bearings getting at you, you know, it was a rough
How did you
pit.
trip him up then in the end? You alluded to having cracked it a bit.
Less was more, you know, as in line out in the pond, no leg core, fluorocarbon, even a leg clip was too much, had to be a wrap over in line, pop-ups ever so slightly to hide the hook. You didn't want them spending too much time around your rigs with your sush, you know. You'd actually turn up, carp in the edge, bang, bang, couple of rigs that had caught loads on, half a key of bait around each one, eat everything, leave your rig, time and time again. So it more so spending a lot of time, if they were out in the pond, they had to be on the spots, so to speak. And yeah, like 10 baits on a regular, do you know what I mean? They'd come in, do you out. If you got them repeating that, they'd trip up eventually. But yeah, it's little crafty buggers in there.
What we're talking, is that the big rig era?
Yeah. Do you know what, that's the only place I never saw it got spit out.
Right.
But I set it up, like I say, it'd be like on an inline, no leg core, no putty, thick sort of fluorocarbon, loads of like putty up the line. And it'd be like literally just knotted to swivel, so there wasn't even an anti-tangle sleeve because you're laying them just on the shelf and it's like tap water. So yeah, if they spent too much time around you, they'd be onto you. So with that mechanically, you know, once it was in, it seemed to do the job.
We need to just tell people what we might be able to find a picture of it, to be fair, but to drop in. But what was the big rig?
The ultimate. It's just, imagine a hinge with a loop, before you'd knot it, and then it sort of kinked over onto like a 90-degree angle, so it's giving a real aggressive, with obviously massive movement, bit of a mouthful. Yeah.
Long shank hook at the time, wasn't it?
Used to use the semi-long shank incisors originally. They were just a straight eye, straight hook, nothing offset, just lay perfectly sort of straight. It was that sort of straight point, setting it up obviously if it's slightly inturned. I mean, originally, when my mate first sort of come up with this rig 25 years ago, what's like the noodle rig, if you like, do you know what I mean? They were originally using it with outturned points and slightly tweaking them, so it was catching them further back. Obviously, your beat points, your lip hooking. With that being a flat point, you know, the hook holds. Where you set your 90-degree kink with your little swivel on, that'd be on the lips. So if you set it up that big, that's how far back they were hooked. That big, that's how far back they were hooked. You know, yeah, devastating rig. Yeah.
But you don't use it anymore?
In the right circumstances, don't get me wrong, I will use that, but it's a little bit tangle prone, obviously, if you're fishing out at range. I mean, like mechanically, I don't think that can be beaten if you're going to lower it onto a spot, but a lot of the fishing I do now might not suit a 15 or an 18 mil pop-up on a spot, you know what I mean, like that. Whereas, like, say you're going on to Reedsmere, you're sort of fishing lengthy-ish sort of booms in the silt with one of them, with the spread of a stick, it suited that fishing perfectly. Or you were laying them down in the edge and a couple over the top, perfect. Or like, it's just a chod in a sense with a loop on it now, isn't it? You know, that's what a lot of people fish them. It was just much more aggressive, set up onto like a little coated hook link, yeah.
Mm. And did you watch the Dalefish pick that up?
I didn't actually catch a Dalefish on that rig,
right.
But marginally, like say you ended up catching it on a long shank and a balanced nut. I had one of them sat next to it, but yeah, I caught it on a tiger. Yeah.
Old faithful tiger.
So, yeah, tiger.
Yeah, if in doubt.
Small look though, I never been an old, what was it? Then when Solar released them Ranger hooks years ago, long shank again, they were straight, no like inturned or outturned eye. Yeah, one of them a real sort of long string tube kicker. So mechanically, you know, it's still a mouthful. Yeah, just a little slip D, I think, with just a balanced nut.
Presumably, like, the Dalefish still ranks quite high in terms of your northwest captures.
Yeah, nice.
Just a unique carp, really.
Yeah, and as well to sort of go through the process of what, you know, we want a case of go on there and catch him. It was, like I say, 3 seasons, a lot of learning, a lot of graft, and yeah, eventually got him. A lot of about to get him, and then someone else was, you know, it'd be due. But yeah, sort of like, you know, went round the house with that one a little bit.
Mm. And kind of been long before you were on the motorway though, down the M40 to Oxford. It
was on from the Golden Dalefish, and then it was to. I remember catching that and heard about a couple of waters in the Midlands. I think one of them Branston Water Park, and the other one Charnwood.
Charlie.
Went for a walk, ran both in the same day. Branston, really liking the look of it. I walked around Charnwood, and I was chatting to one kid, and he'd not long. I spoke to a few people. Obviously, the accent doesn't match theirs. A few 20s in there, Literally, I got the same answer off everyone. It's like they had a prep talk. Gets round to sort of like an end swim, young lad in there, Chris. Any joy, mate? No, but I had a fucking mega one last week, £38. Out's come the camera light. I was like, I think it was the slate grey, and I was like in here, yeah. Mega thing, that, you know what I mean? And he's like, yeah. Oh, and he showed me a few other ones, and I sort of left, and he's telling me, oh, it's days only. But I clocked that every chap, you know, there was 200 baits in an air dry bag in the tree. You know what I mean? Not a lot of bait. Yeah, it's days only, and you got to do a draw for your swims, and unless you catch one, you get catcher's rights. But yeah, sort of left away, and at the time, you used to get your ticket from the leisure centre. You'd buy, I think it was 33 quid per ticket, which per rod. So up to 4 rods. So I think I just bought 3 tickets, 100 quid. And yeah, started cracking on. I used to sleep in my van at night, and obviously just fished the days, yeah.
I mean, you're not in your hometown there, and you're in the van at night, and...
I had one weird one, you know. Obviously, it's finding places to park, and it's a bit of an estate. So it's actually, I think, the second time I've gone a bit further past the estate. And it's almost like an industrial estate, a few wagons and bit, and an old burger van, obviously, all locked up, and I'm thinking, yeah, sweet. I've parked up there, I've got the bed chair, I've got a bigger van for it after... It must have been the second trip, 'cause I never did the first trip. I was doing like getting a new van anyway for the landscaping side of things, and I bought a Peugeot Boxer, nightmare thing, but you could get a bed chair in the back. So I've pulled up to this little spot that I'd found, bed chair in the back, fast on, and woke up to people checking the handles on the van. That's unnerving, very unnerving. You know what I mean? You've only got your imagination what's outside the van. Is a 10, is there one? Do you know what I mean? But I can remember sort of like coughing, rolling about a bit just to make them aware that I'm in here and I didn't want to wake up bouncing down the motorway, you know what I mean, with a robbed van or something. But yeah, that was not the nicest area, do you know what I mean? You're in, I think it's sort of Loughborough sort of way, Charnwood, sort of Loughborough, you know, there's some sort of rougher council estates around that area that certainly you noticed around the lake at times.
And what about the fishing, Myles? How did that unfold?
Most of what, again, it's, you know, found and walking around in the night time. It was days only. The hours changed as the light changed throughout the season. But basically, yeah, it was from, I actually caught one first trip, gone down there using mainline at the time. I think I'd taken 6 or 8 kilo of boilies. Used to try and base on around 3 a day, do you know what I mean? So 6 or 8 kilo of boilies, gone down there, fished a day. I think I didn't get there till middle of the day, so I've gone up and got my tickets, had a mooch round, done the day, and it was on packing up, saw one wallop out to my left. I see a swim called the Slopes. So I've gone back down that night, and it's probably 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, sat in there, listening. Oh, must have been 10. You know, there was just 20 yards out. Good ones as well. So yeah, got a bit of bait out with a catty. Chucked them out. I remember chucking them out in the morning. It was just like fucking hell. It was well deep out here. 22 foot it was after a bit of messing about. But yeah, kind of, they visited that area a lot. They just, whether I just stumbled on them naturally in that area or they were used like a bit of a channel through an island, but also another way around. But yeah, just a bit of good timing. They were there. Had a bit of a string of success through that area, yeah, managed to catch a few. None of the real big ones, well, say caught one called the Mug, he was £39, like one of the big ones, but not the A-teamers, if you like. Sort of left it for a bit, then we're going elsewhere. I can't remember where exactly at the time, but I've come back and when it opened, let's just say June 16th. I didn't go back for the first 2 weeks. I've always had in mind of places like Reesmears, you know what I mean? The first 2 weeks, it'd be everyone's mad keen, dead busy. Thought we'll swerve that, come on after. And there's no one there. Like literally I got to the pit, there's no one there. Red hot weather, I remember for a series of like 3 days and managed to get them going on the top. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a ninja on the top, you know what I mean? I catch them off the top, right? But what had gone on, I don't know. I'd managed to get them going really well on a number of times, couldn't put a hook in one. Literally, you know, controller sailing away, just nothing out all the while, thinking, the fuck is going on? You know, Kev and Sean have come round, I've held it up like that. What's up with that? I can't hook anything. There's like that, you know. Oh, it's good for a stocky, Kev sort of like mumbled as he's got off. Okay, sat there and a bit pissed off of it. You know, I had some good chances. Number one of the twins, it was the one that I'd not caught, Nanny, or the club twin. It was a real dark one. You know what I mean? It was there, troughing mixers that would come out the back. Here, 5-10 yards out, one after another, wallop. Bit off that controller, little tiny 5 grammer. Textbook, bang. No, with that big explosion, he's gone. You're thinking, what is going on? So one with a big controller. Never seen a cruiser coming through between the islands. Probably 60, 70 yards out. Wallops, I think it was a cut down pop-up at the time. But then I just never seen this. And I was at the stage where I was, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I'll leave it to go. You know what I mean? I'm watching them take it. Everything's tightening up. I'm striking. Nothing's happening. Just wait for it to go. Big cruiser, shoulders come out, inhaled the pop-up. Obviously, it's instinct in it. You fucking can't whack. Hooked him. Scaly. You know, it was big scaly. Massively spawned out. Just under £36. But then, yeah, managed him that trip. And then it was the very next trip. Caught the slate.
Amazing.
Not off the top, the wheels off the bottom in the bay, you know. Seen them showing in there, put a bit of bait in. Managed, I think it was a club twin that time, 33 in a little common. Put a bit more bait in, come back the next morning, fizzers. Seen a big mirror show. And I had a bite and I thought it was it. I lost the mug, real puffy cheeks. Loads of weed going down the shelf. And he's coming up the shelf, see the big mirror. And I just caught, glanced at his cheeks, oh, it's the mug again. Ding, up pull. I was like, oh, that'll be the big mirror that's showing. Gets the rod out, rolling a fag. Poof, big mirror shows again. So I was like, oh, it's got to be the grey. And yeah, I had the bite literally an hour later, big battle, scales behind its shoulders coming up, I thought it is as well. And yeah, job done, out of there.
I mean, they were amazing fish, quite unique as well. Again,
Mega, yeah. Old, proper
you don't
old
see fish
unique
like that
things.
very often.
No, I think it's because they're a bit of a, you know, somewhere from here, somewhere from there. Yeah, it's definitely a unique place, you know. Deep machinery all over the place, crazy bailiffs. You know, it's
So
all going on.
in the end, you got out of there, you know, pretty quick.
I fished to September, October, well into November, and then sort of went back and 2 or 3 trips when it reopened, and sort of caught the ones I wanted, and then it was off to Stoneacres,
Which is obviously a journey that you'd seen other people make.
Yeah.
You weren't wanting to necessarily do your own thing by that stage. You wanted to sample a bit of what you've been hearing about.
Yeah, I mean, I'd had friends that had fished on there, you know, like Choco, £52. You know, you've seen pictures of all these linears, but, you know, Choco, £52, just little Rob's picture of it there. It was just incredible, do you know what I mean? I can remember that just being, I need to go and have a go for that carp.
And actually, when you were on there, you wouldn't say it was still in the era when it was hush-hush, but it wasn't long after that period. So Choco still wasn't the name that it was to become by the time you'd finished on that lake.
Yeah, obviously it's the lads that catch them and the exposure that them fish get in it that make them more out there, I suppose.
I kind of feel like I hadn't seen loads of pictures of Choco at that stage.
No, I mean, a lot of the lads that were travelling from the north, you know, a lot of them, they're rolling their own bait. They were certainly well out the media, and if there was any pictures going in, it was to aid themselves. It wasn't for recognition. You know, proper lads just doing it for themselves.
I remember seeing little Rob's pictures.
Yeah.
Because he was a guest chapter in Jim Shelley's book that I'd helped Jim with at the time. But I don't remember seeing loads of pictures before that.
No.
It still had that little bit of freshness about it.
Yeah.
Because those boys had kept it super quiet, certainly in the sort of early 2000s right the way through to when you arrived. It hadn't seen loads and loads of
It was kind of
publicity.
coming through then, wasn't it? You know,
But
there's
we
a
were
good
talking-
sort of group of, you know what I mean, there's a good sort of group of fish in there that have sort of come through the ranks at that similar sort of time. You know, you're these low 30s were all of a sudden 38s, 39s. On with pressure comes bait, you know, naturally they're growing. Next thing, you know, I mean, you've got this bite mark, another incredible carp that sort of come through the ranks with it. It was a mega place, Stoneacres, it certainly was. And they were, again, I can remember having the feeling of exactly the same on Reedsmere, I'm never going to be able to replace this. I think Reedsmere was for the atmosphere, the lads that you met, the buzz of the place, whereas I can remember thinking I'm never going to replace these carp for the way, you know what I mean, for looks wise. Obviously, Denton did so, but yeah, at the time, it was just every single one of them, you know, and they were so hard earned as well. It was all casting then, there was no drop in your rigs, you know what I mean, and by having that edge and you were fishing and baiting further out in the pond, it'd make it much more harder to fish, but therefore much more rewarding when you got one, you know.
Did your time overlap with Kev Wilson? Was Kev finishing up?
No,
when you were
he'd
starting?
just sort of left.
Because I
And
kind of feel like he certainly, you spoke to him, didn't you?
yeah. It was kind of Kev through chatting to bits on Kev and Rob that sort of, you know, Stoneacres had come to light, and obviously they'd fished it.
And Kev had done phenomenally well.
Oh yeah, really well. Again, fishing out, you know, out of that range. Not that we were all caught at range, but certainly consistently caught a few out at range. Thinking, you know, I can punch a lead, I get like rigs out there. But it was all boat fishing. You know what I mean? It was going on. I'd never done boat fishing apart from nipping out a dinghy when you shouldn't have been. I'd never had the opportunity to fish with a boat. I can remember thinking at the start, I don't really want to, unless I need it to get a fish out. I'll do it my way. I'll do it all lead work off the bank. I'll bait up close in. And I can just remember like Rob and Kev saying, that won't last long. You know, and true to form, it didn't. You know, there's only so many flat calm, red hot. Fuck, I'm going for a look. You know what I mean? And that just opened up a whole new world to it. It was mega. You know, you were joining them. It was not just imagining it.
No, and for the guy who's so, you know, precise and picky about how everything is in your mind, all of a sudden you're able to see it.
Oh yeah, I mean
It must have blown you up a bit.
oh yeah, you blows you to bits, yeah. But then equally you use it to your advantage, whereas you throw in different rigs at an H block to see, you know, how much a lead may fall through what depth of water and swing back to work. You know, you're trying to work out all them questions that you had. With a bit of effort, now you had the opportunity to find your answers. So, you know, obviously I took that. You know, I'd be on there a lot in the winter as well, messing about, and it was just on a whole it was being there, but the more times you're throwing 10-pound mono and a leader at a H block at 150 yards, and then going out and having a look and realise you have to rock that block when that leg goes in the water. Do you know what I mean? To be where you want it to be. You're doing it over and over, and like I say, it can only imprint how you know it needs to be, or you're wasting your time through visually going out and seeing it.
How did that sort of access to the visual side of the fishing affect what you were actually putting out on the spots?
Well, naturally from fishing, like I say, it was a lot of snowmans, you know, suppler, sort of soft-coated hook links, braids. You know, you're always sort of imagining your lead and sort of so on going into sort of soft bottom, and then you wanted something that would sort of fold over. Obviously, going on to a lot of gravel pits, you know, you could get away with bigger leads, stiffer hook links, and obviously from going out and viewing it, you know, with them sort of presentations, more often than not, especially if you're fishing shorter ranges, smaller spots, especially like the nuggets on as well. Obviously, there's nothing, you know what I mean, to throw it away. And you go out and you look, and literally 9 out of 10 times it'd be sat right on top of the lead. Obviously, you'd be like, oh, it went out sweet. I'm sure it did. I watched it in the air, you know, plop, it can't be tangled. But it looks shit. Do you know what I mean? So then obviously you'd start playing around with more balanced baits, you know, like trying to delicately sort of send them away from the lead, stiffer hook links, like I say, bigger leads, searching out them firmer sort of lake beds that you can fish them over. So yeah, I suppose that was like the kind of adjustment from visually seeing.
Feels a little bit like from memory, we did a bit of filming on there for like the Corda website.
That was years ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I remember you using the long anti-tangle sleeves, leg clips, fairly long rigs, but I feel like they were probably what you'd now call your claw rig by then.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a departure from what you were doing before, I think.
I mean, again, like that, you know, the anti-tangle sleeves, the zip leads, you're trying to manufacture that setup for fishing at range, which the fish, don't get me wrong, they weren't always at range, but if you were going to try and make spots and apply bait and bait something regular, you didn't want to make it easy for anybody else. So, you know, you were kind of tailoring your setups to suit them fishing out at ranges. Obviously the longer links then come with the smaller baits, less drag on, you know what I mean, when you're sort of fishing, getting away with the bigger hooks. I suppose using the bait to take the weight out of the hooks, you know what I mean, you're just trying to get as minimalistic as possible, you know, you're whacking them as far as you can, so to speak. Certainly as far as I could with the tackle that I had at the time, you know, maxing out every time, and it had to be as foolproof, tangle-proof, and just, you know, just do a job. With still knowing that everything would sit as well as it could do.
And actually that, you know, I'm sure 10 years probably passed, and we were filming with you on like Denton on Black when you were going long out of there, and it felt like the rig was kind of the same.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, it served, everything was, like I say, manufactured to suit that. You know, if crosswinds, them zip leads will just cut through that crosswind a little bit better. I mean, I'd much rather an 8-ounce ball lead on the end of it, but, you know, that did the job better. Them smaller baits, obviously there's not as much as drag. You can just, it's just less would get more.
Now, I remember from the Kev Wilson interview that we did, and it's useful for context because Kev was on there very shortly before you, he was finding that the spots on the bars were really, really big. Fish were visiting it, but he was fishing from memory in the corners of the spots, to trying to not catch tench, using tiger nuts, etc., and B, trying to tuck his rig away from the sort of main thoroughfare. Was that the same kind of thing as when the same way that you found it, or had things changed?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the masters of their own environment. You know, if you had a big gravel area, more often than not, you know, like I say, you couldn't drop your rigs in, so you couldn't be tucking this in there and that. You know, you were casting to it, high weed, short the spots. You know, you spend hours trying to get one on it, and you go out there and your leg caw's literally going in at a 45-degree angle, you know, across the spot. The biggest red flag ever, you know, surely. So, I mean, you'd be using like a lot of like fluorocarbon to hide that fact, but you'd spend hours just trying to tuck them in on the edges, do you know what I mean? You didn't want anything obviously going across the spot, in the edges. And more often than not, there'd be tunnels, and you could see the areas that they'd come into, use certain areas. And obviously if the tunnel's there, I'd want my rig here, you know, like a few baits and then bang. You're just trying to think about it, do you know what I mean, in a sense. They mug themselves off every now and again, don't they, and they're having it. you'll catch them off them blatant spots, surely. I've done loads of times, you know, load of bait out there, put them back out, bite. But it's them periods in between, you know, if you can keep nicking a bite, you know, obviously them numbers are going to rack up, more chance the one you want's going to show up.
And because you're having to cast, did that mean that quite often you're choosing the areas because they're hittable as opposed to what you'd perhaps do now and what a lot of lads seem to do now and what you'd probably have done as well, going for the silty spots with the odd little white fleck that's just starting to appear, which probably you couldn't hit in a crosswind at 150s?
No chance. It was all weather permitted, like I say, if you weren't making, there was always them big areas, spots that were clean year in, year out. But if you had, and you took that time, you know, them spots, it wasn't always about range. So you can see them, you know, you'd see them showing out there, you go out, have a look. It's gin clear, like gin clear. And you can literally see freshly turned over areas, but you're talking, you know, 10 foot of water, 9 foot of weed. Unless you're going to go out there and risk your ticket and, you know what I mean, drop a rig in it.
Lads must have.
Yeah, well, you know, I ain't going to lie, I've done it, you know what I mean, when you felt like you had to. That was more so fishing out at range, had a bite off a tench or whatever, you know, I can reach my spots and all so on. I just wouldn't have been able to do it without getting over rod out the game as well, so it's just, you know, took it back out there.
So that ethically, because you can hit the spot, it's fair game sort of thing.
In my mind, yeah, you know, I wasn't doing anything that I couldn't do anyway.
So if the bailiff comes around and says, reel it in and reclip it, you could do it?
Yeah. I just wouldn't be able to get it with the line lay. Obviously, if you've got a big crosswind coming on and one like that, you've got a lot of weed in between you and the spot. Where that mono, you know, you think, bang, you got your bow like that. You ain't going to get that back without pulling your 5 ounce lead across spotless gravel. So it settles on that, you know. So if you've got 2 rods out there and your right-hander goes, do you know what I mean? You're getting it back out there with the wind going that way, sweet. But if your left-hander's to go, do you know what I mean? You can't because you'll just take that other rod out and so on. So in them sort of situations when it's either up against the bivvy or, you know, it's 6 months of prep waiting for this time, yeah, the moon's bang on, I need my rigs on that spot. And yeah, it's going back out there, yeah.
And how quickly did you get amongst them? Because obviously, I want to say you were like top rod for 2 or 3 years on there.
Not to start off, I mean, I didn't start on there till like middle of August. Again, a lot of learning with the boat. I didn't really take to it quite quickly, the boat. I tried to sort of think, no, I'll do it my way, I don't need that. But then obviously when you're out there and you're seeing them, and I should have made use of it a lot more because we kind of lost a lot of like you could see really well for like 2 or 3 trips. Then the clarity went shocking. And I can remember like literally just seeing a glow 100 yards out. Turned out to be the rake spot. Didn't know at the time. Just literally tiny little change of colour. Blocked it up before I left. You know, 2 buckets of emp have gone on it, 5 kilo of boilies. Come back the week later, and I've clipped everything up to this block, and I've whacked it out there. It's and that's the first time I thought I'm fishing out in the pond on a baited spot. And then we're doing the like massive southwesterly coming through. And I remember watching them showing like mad on the, literally short off Big Point on the bars. Drive around there, so I've got the van, everything's packed up. And as I'm packing up so like to move on to these. I think my rods have been out there since the day before. And I'm in the back of the van and I could just hear, and I've turned my receiver off and I've looked, I'm fishing braid and the middle rod is just flying. And we're picking the rod up, obviously everything's erratic on the braid and it's just stripping me, you know, an angry one. Going, and it stopped solid. So I was like, right. Never played a fishing boat at this point, so right, rod down, life jacket on. I've got no outboard or nothing, I just had a little boat. Got the boat, I was like, I'll just try and shift it, because honestly, massive, you know, 30, 40 mile an hour winds coming across. So I picked the rod up, and then we're like out of the braid, and I can feel it, you know what I mean? It's ever so slightly coming back, cut me off, you know, and I thought, that was, again, the lesson learned the hard way to don't rod down, go out to them. You know, I think Stone Acres, you still got 10, 11, 12 feet, you know what I mean, of water and a lot of weed. So it ain't like them shallow weedy pits where you can get them moving. Once they get buried in them weeds, you know, even when you're above them, it takes some getting out at times. So yeah, that was lesson learned the hard way. First bite, lost him. And I think that was probably getting into towards September. Didn't get another chance until the 1st of October. Spent loads of times, found a big silt bed, a swing called the Tits off to the left. Never seen him showing. Just leading up, not boat work. I say the clarity had sort of gone a little bit. found a spot and I was baiting it up, you know, buckets of boilies, thinking we're going to get over here. And no, I never. But I was in that swim with 3 rods out in that area, catching tench quite consistently. I remember seeing them showing in the morning off to the right in front of the bins. Swim where Kev had caught a lot from. It was sort of a known autumn area, a bit deeper. A few bigger, sort of cleaner ground areas out at range. So, you know, again, I didn't have the gear for chucking that I had then. It was my old Trevor Winslow 12.5 foot, 3.5 rod, you know, emblems, £10 mono. And the 4th rod was an old Free Spirit marker rod that had just, you know, you had to ram it together for it to stay together. But you couldn't break the rod. 5 ounce lead, whacking it in hard as you can, £20 whiplash. I'm leading up out the bins. I've got a good pull, you know what I mean? Right in that area where I see him showing. Gets the marker out there, eventually pops it up, lines it up from the swim that had been in the tits. Oh, it's on the money, right where I see a couple show. So I've gone out there in the boat, spread a few, I think engaged at the time, 30, 40, 50 boilies in that area. Now it's getting a rig on it, so I can't remember how I did it, 'cause I know I only had the 1 rod, but I had 2 different spools. So I think I've took the spool off that emblem, put the reel onto that, so the marker's always out there, and then, so I'm casting at it from the tits. It kind of bit of a cross angle. And honestly, I was at it for ages, just couldn't hit the rod any harder. You know, when the lead hits the water, then it hits the clip, just short, just short, just short. I must have just caught it just right this one cast. It leads hit the clip, you know, foot above the water, bang, sweet, it's down. I kind of going out in the boat, even just dropping, you know what I mean, like stabbing it under wee beds, just sinking that braid, that's the money rod. And yeah, got up in the morning, first light, swung up, literally, I remember just literally shoes in there, put the kettle on, looking out, I was thinking, fucking hell, we're getting on that way, we're going to catch one out of this place. And it's on a Neville, it's just ripped up, you know, absolute churner on the rod. Picked it up on the braid, but yeah, never stopped. Rod down, life jacket on, into the boat. And I could remember Kev saying, don't do that, you know what I mean, don't try and play them. When you're going out to the boat, just point the rod at them. Well, naturally, I'm like, fucking hell, the boat's going sideways, and I was like, fucking hell, think Kev, point the rod straight at it. Yeah, sweet, fucking hell, we're moving now, we're doing it. Of course, there's a bit of a crowd gathered opposite Big Point. I think you've got Gary Lewis over there and Ed and someone else sort of watching. Sheet of glass, like sunny sheet of glass. I've got my glasses on. Couldn't see the bottom, but when I've got out there, I remember him saying as well, give them the butt, like when you're about 20 yards away, just start cranking, and more often than not, it'll pop them out the weed bed. Well, 20 yards away, just start giving it a little bit more. Literally, as I've got to it, bang, it's a 40 pounder, but yeah, let's see a tiny little pink bait here in its mouth, and it just swam underneath the boat, swung the boat round. But you're just in your own little world then, but yeah, I'm trying to net it. Fucking, you know, you learn, again, you're trying to put it in that way, and yeah, it was a right balls up to be fair, but eventually get him in the net. Loads of lads on the far bank, way. And yeah, won the halfling, 40 pound an ounces, it was mega. You know, first one actually landed out of there. And then it went on a little bit of a roll then. Saw him showing the week after. Again, get there early in the morning, saw him. Couldn't get back in that area. Swooped. Lewis was in there, like. And then got over in Big Point, managed to catch, I think, one the lever at 29 and a 26. Come on the week after, Lewis is in Big Point, can't get back in there. Went in the Birches, see a few shows in there, and had a nice brace. We're out last week in October now. And yeah, nice brace. We had baby Choco, and I think it was just over 37, and fish to call 5 scales, 36. But that was kind of it then, you know, set up, rocking, buzzing to get back for the spring.
Yeah, and what you just said, it seemed kind of to flow from that point. Like you didn't struggle anymore. Like,
no, it kind of, you know, it was getting all used to the boat, knowing, it's learning and knowing what you've got to do and then just piecing that together. And still, you're making a lot of mistakes along the way, but that's all part of it, you know. It's
from that next spring, was it all systems go?
Not really, no. I can remember, always used to struggle quite a lot in the springs. More so when they spawned, I had my fun, you know what I mean? Like, I get my spots prepped. Caught them, but yeah, more July, August, September, and probably through to October.
Do you think, because obviously the lads now get them on the zigs on stonies in the spring, do you think that was probably going on, that kind of behaviour was going on when you were there, but no one was using the zigs?
To be fair, the ones that I caught in the spring were on zigs.
Were they?
Yeah. The 7 foot bits of black foam. And then a little Rob saying to me again, like, you know, I had a couple on the zigs. So we sort of kept that.
Not
back
as
of
good as
my
a
mind.
wink sort of thing.
Yeah, and I had a couple on them. But again, it's a lot of learning. Look back, knowing what you know now and the situation you've been in, you go on, you think you catch a lot more in the spring. But you were getting on them and you were trying to learn the lake as well as fishing, as well as setting up spots and giving them bait, catching a lot of tench, rather than just get on them where they're going to turn up, put a nut, an handful of salt and just leave it. Bite when they're in the area, that's all it needed, Never fished a lake where less is more in every single way, like every way.
But you were kind of a big hit baiter at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, you're trying to set things up for hits. That's how I was always think my fishing. If you get as many, fish feeding and using that area as possible for as long as possible, then rather than catching one or two, there's a chance of catching the stock,
Then did that extend to actually what you were putting out during sessions as opposed to when you were leaving?
What sort of bait?
Yeah, the quantities and.
Yeah, I was like when I was leaving, I was putting in. Again, you think it's a lot of bait then, but then you go to now, everything sort of grows with it, doesn't it? But I can remember I used to take like 20 kilos of emp, so it'd be 2 buckets of emp, 10 kilos of boilers for a 3-night trip. I'd use a bit of it, and then when I left, most of it are going when I left. You bait other little spots. And as you sort of got on further into the autumn, you're trying to concentrate that into areas where you thought you might have a chance at the one that you wanted. And pretty sure I put an hook in one time doing that, getting into November, unfortunately an up pull. But yeah, you was always trying to build up thinking where you would have a chance at the one that you wanted, but also catch a few along the way, Because it's a pond full of incredible carp, there's loads in there.
And a lot of them went into your album in the end?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, I had to wade through the numbers. I never actually caught Choco, never caught bite mark. But out of the ones that I caught, when all the tickets changed, I never actually chanced to carry on fishing it. I never actually got offered a ticket for some reason. But I certainly would have, had given the opportunity. But, it was kind of ended at that for there. But yeah, out the ones that I caught, I was more than happy with the ones I caught.
And out of a stock of what at the time, 80 to 100 fish, was it, wasn't it, or less?
Yeah, 70, 80 carp maybe.
You must have had quite a lot of those.
50 or so, yeah, 50, 60 maybe.
Not bad.
Yeah, I think I had 27 one year. That was my best year on there. But yeah, again, I would have more enjoyed it. When at the time I did go back and fish it, obviously Choco had gone. Bite mark was, £50. I thought I got the ticket again, the chance, but it changed. You could go out and drop your rigs, and you could do everything that you always wished that you could do, but then everyone could do it, so it wasn't an edge. So straight away I thought, everyone's going to be on it. It's going to be all of an edge thing, and got quite a lot of clips, within 10 wraps of the bank. Did a lot of prepping, catapult work, boilies at night, and I think I caught 5 in 2 or 3 trips, and then bite mark got caught, and then I never ended up going back again.
Was Adam Smith's was the last capture of Choco? Is that right? Mid-40s.
Yeah.
Were you on the lake at the time? Was that?
Didn't see it when Adam caught it. No.
But
46
you were still
pound. It
fishing
was kind of
the lake.
Yeah. I was fishing the lake. Yeah.
How long did it take to dawn that Choco had gone?
It's, what people are like. They sit there long enough that they're convinced that they see it. It was a friendly one. I say a friendly. It's a friendly big one. He used to get caught at least twice a year as a rule. You certainly do a spring and an autumn capture. Most years, a summer capture as well. 3 times a year. But for it to, and as well, there's no mistaking that when it boshed out the lake. It was a Saturday night fish as well. I used to fish, obviously Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. But every time that fish would get out, would get caught. On my last day, you see it bouncing around the pit. It'd be going on a mad one. You'd see it, and then sure enough, Friday, Saturday night, Choco's been out. You know what I mean? So that kind of stopped. I think I remember a lad Brendan. He lost a big fish fishing the bars on Big Point. He's got cut off. Basically, he's had a bite. Sat on his rods for literally 2 days. He's wandered down to me, put the kettle on, poof, had a bite, legged it back up there. He's picked it up, just cut him off. I got a feeling that was it, because it had been showing out there, the back of him, for literally 2 days, and then it was never seen again. You know what I mean? It's a horrible thing to say about that, but I've got a gut feeling that may have been him. And it was kind of, cracking on a little bit. He's captured at 46 with a bit of mouth damage. I honestly think, in the arts, I think what happened with that fish was it went through a number of carrying trailers. I think it carried a trailer for a while, obviously dropped weight because of it, and then I think that may have happened again, and you know, sadly been the end of him. Like.
Mm. And you obviously mentioned Stoney's as being one of the venues that you couldn't see past in terms of how much you enjoyed it and how much you buzzed off the fish. When you realised your time was up, how did you try to make sure that you could continue with the same buzz?
I mean, there's always, although you're fishing for, you know, you're always thinking ahead and what else is about. And
actually, that's one thing I should say about you. I always remembered that when you explore a new area, you were a really good one about hearing about the odd of the lake, and that would be the next thing.
Yeah, it always
because you would find it all out for the first time, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of places where you go to next, it's always from a story or a picture in it. You know, from the lake that you're fishing, then whether it be one of your mates, something that they've caught, or you're kind of building up that picture already, and you kind of filtering bits of information out, and it may be 2 or 3, 4 years before you actually go and fish there, but that 2 or 3, 4 years of previous captures from what areas, you know, it's as good as sat on the pond in a sense. You're building up that information that you need to put together to do the damage you need to do, like, you know.
So what was on your list after Stoney's?
I thought you were going to say that. I can't actually remember right now.
The only reason I'm asking is because I can't remember either.
I thought you just... I've got a feeling at the time that I'd spent a little bit of time fishing back round north again. Tatton, Martino, back onto Reedsmere. I was just thinking, where do we go after there?
I don't know, Dan Wildball's in the room as well, so maybe Dan remembers.
You talked about it, didn't you?
Naybridge, so we did a little bit on Naybridge.
So that's another Cotswolds water, and at the time was kind of, well, actually you probably missed it at its absolute peak, didn't you? Nay.
Yeah, I got a little go out of it, you know. I can remember my mate, I was using his bait at the time, Connect baits, and there's quite a lot of lads it's not around anymore. A lot of lads around the area were using his stuff as well, and obviously because of that, he was getting sent the pictures of loads of carp. Chatting to him, he's like, mate, you watch these fish that have been caught out of Naybridge. One of my mates was using the bait, Vinny. He's had literally 2 awesome mirrors in a couple of weeks. In November as well, one of them was 45, the other one, the male, one of them moon scale, 43. There's also a 40-pound common in there, you know. They referred it to as the car park lake of the Cotswolds, handful of carp in there, really busy, cheap ticket. Got the ticket, let's have a go, like, you know. But that was more over the winter. Didn't catch anything first time round, had a little go in the spring. Tricky place, I think I did about 30 nights, only up one off the bottom. Nice 30-pounder cluster, I think they call him, or paw print, one or the other. And then, yeah, had 2 or 3 trips, had a bit of fun on the top, you know, had an handful of fish off the top.
Do you think at that stage, you know, because after that really, you bounced around some of the top waters in the country catching big uns, like, had it cemented in your mind that you were now interested in going wherever the journey took you in search of single big carp, target fish?
Yeah, I mean, you're chasing that buzz, and it had to be, you wanted, every lake's different or hard for its own, whether it's people everywhere, whether it's boats, whether it's crayfish, whether it's tension, you know, everywhere's got its own adventure. And obviously you can never get bored on a new adventure, and obviously the big one is the end prize. So yeah, definitely, you know, I suppose you're fantasising on catching that all the time that you sat there, but it's that journey along the way. You know, I can't ever think, I mean, it's always nice to think, oh, I want to catch him, and you always want to catch him and get on to the next. But I think you have got to just remember, you know, so you've got to enjoy it as you go in as well, and that's, I love every minute of it, like.
Do you think it's rare for someone of your age to be as target obsessed as you are? Because obviously there's been a lot go on in the last 10 or 15 years that's moved fishing very much away from the target fishing towards lots of big fish. There's more big fish than ever, and people want to catch a lot of them, it seems.
I mean, you can go fishing, can't you, on loads of lakes with 10, 40-pounders in it and so on, but for me, you know, it's about the individuality, the characteristics, whether it be the history, the pond that it's in, and what it's against you. You know, no one wants it easy, you know, but the harder it is and the more you've got to do and put in, the more of a buzz it is when you get the one that you want. So again, I want an album of carp where people say, an album full of carp where everyone people say life's too short, let's fish for that one.
Right.
You know? So that's the buzz for me. Yeah.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
And two fish that I think really stand out when you're describing that, in terms of the journey, difficulty and the unique nature of the fish, is the Martino leather and the fish, the waddle from down here.
Yeah.
Those two really would sum up what you're just saying there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else like them around, if you sense. And both lakes as well, you know, so a million mile away from each other. You've got the hole, which is just that, in the middle of a field. A few just, you know, it's a claps mine shaft. 50-foot hole, like literally, you know, snags, claps banks, some really old carp in there, and, you know, a mad-looking pink belly 40-pound leather, like, you know, creme de la creme. In my eyes, it was, and as well, home county fish.
How had you resisted it
mega.
for so long?
I mean, I'd always sort of kept an eye on it, but it was one, the leather kind of a bit of appeared, if you like. There was a handful of fish in there that were like around low 30s, you know, all mega. And then you didn't hear a lot about the old. There was a very kept underground, if you like. The sort of lads that were fishing it certainly weren't blowing it out. And it's probably on Petty Pool, you'd hear snippets, lads, mates fishing it and showing the odd picture, and you'd be like, oh, he's a cool one. Do you know what I mean? Like, they all had a bit of character to them, if you like. And then it hadn't been caught for about 3 or 4 years, and a lad had it, and it was £39, and he put the picture out everywhere. To be honest, it was on. Well, it was certainly on like the Anglers Club website page and the Instagram and all that sort of stuff. But it filled up a little bit then, because of the nature of the pit. You know, you have to have a pass to park in like the parking bit overnight. If not, you have to park elsewhere. You have to walk across like 2 fields, and then, you know, it's a mission to get to. You have to go over fences. It's very uncomfortable fishing. There's a lot against you. Do you know what I mean, on there? So again, it ticked all the boxes. And then when the nature of the pit kept it. It wasn't long until it quietened off again, and then you heard nothing of the hole for ages. And then it was kind of. That's when I thought no one's going to be going down there for ages. Heard nothing about it. In a bit of a time, the position I'd been down there and baited it like previously when I was fishing Stone Acres. I remember thinking I was driving all that way, and I just remember thinking if Choco and Bite Mark got caught, I need a plan to fall back on if it's late on in the autumn. So I was going down Martino baiting up, and I see it on 2 of my baiting up trips. So I thought, you know, he loves his grub, putting in a lot of like them ellipse pellets from CC Moores at the time. Obviously they sit flat, you know, on the shelves, loads of chops. So I thought, yeah, he likes his food, that one. So I got my ticket. I walked it for literally 14 days from the bounce, just to try and get a sense of what vans were there on what days, relate them to what swims. And that's when I think I mooted it before I got my ticket, sorry, because I clocked in the windows, yeah, parking passes. So you had like P1, then like registration. Another time there was a P4, P5. But then I've gone to another, and there's another P1 with the same registration as did to a different reg. So I thought, they photocopied that. So I've gone to get my ticket. So this is for leaving your van in there overnight. Otherwise, you're only down for the days. Then you have to apply for the Forestry Commission to get a key through an application form, so you can get a key. Do you know what I mean? For access all the time. Nightmare, like logistically, you wait weeks for it. So I've seen this, and I was like, oh, we're photocopying tickets there. So I've gone, met Bertie, got my ticket. I was like, oh, can I have a parking pass as well? Oh no, there's only 5 issued. I was like, well, there's 2 number 1s, because I've seen it in different cars, like, and he's like, oh, right, I'll give you 1, but keep it. I'm like, this is a fucking club. Do you know what I mean? He's like, don't say anything, right, I'll give you 1. So I've got my parking pass, so I'm buzzing. But yeah, basically I mooched, seen what cars were there, what days, and basically fitted in my baiting up trips around them, put in a bit of bait, got eyes on it. 4 nights in, got him. It was literally as mad as that.
Because it could have been a tricky one, that.
Definitely, yeah. I mean,
So
I was
often good
planning
anglers.
well up till Christmas. You know, I was thinking deep pit. I'm going to fish it right through. It was near, it was close enough to home to go down and bait up all the time. Yeah, I had plans for, you know, big maggot attacks and chops and all this, you know, chucking across to the snags in the deeper water. Yeah, like I say, sat there in August making plans for the winter, and then I just did. It was on my second trip, so you go down. I was doing 2 nights at a time on there. You know, I caught 2 my first trip from the spot. It wasn't actually the baited spot though. Originally, that I'd spent all the time baiting. I'd gone round and I see a fish show, big, and it must have been him looking back. They used to come down this sort of out of bounds bank to this little tree. There's a little bit of flatter ground come off it, and I'm baiting up there, fishing. But you notice when they come down, and they sort of, obviously people fish that swim always fish to that sort of zone. There's a big old collapsed tree under the water, you see, so it kind of put you at an angle that you couldn't go into the out of bounds bit, you'd kind of be chucking out here. And then we literally just sat there looking at the bank. I clocked this fish show, and all the bank, you know what I mean, it's like cliff face on the far bit. But on one particular bit, it almost like bowly-like. You think that ground's collapsed, it must have pushed the ground underneath the water. So I got one of them zip leads, 5 ouncer, buzzed it across. And you'd just pull it like, you'd go in, pull it, and just like, you know, come right off that shelf. One particular area, you just get one rod on it. You could not squeeze 2 on it. If they're this far apart, you just had to go on this branch. You could put one of them zip leads on, tighten it up, put the bobbin on and put weights on the bobbins. It was holding, do you know what I mean? So that was the zone. Marker's got cracked over, gone round, big bait up before I left, come back on, fish that zone, and yeah, wallop. Had a little one in the day, as soon as I got the rod out, and then, as I do, I put that rod on that, yeah, had a few off that one. The other rod that was kind of a bit of a dead spot, see a big one come out, put it in the deep water, and that was the rod I had the lever
Was
on.
it?
Yeah, white pop up in like 26, 27 foot of water, I imagine.
How much do you think they use that deep water, Miles?
Oh yeah, they're in there, it's where the food is, isn't it? It's definitely, you see them fizzing in there, showing, with having, I was built up, you always imagine what a place is like before you go there, don't you? And I can remember sort of thinking there ain't many in there, it's going to be very sort of like, you know, long hours of, because the swims are on, do you know what I mean? You're fishing trees, some of the swims anyway, you're fishing snags that are on, you can't move, it's going to be very tricky, very sort of uncomfortable fishing. I mean, it was the uncomfortable side was right about it, you know. When I say no, I was chucking it across. I couldn't use leg core, couldn't use tubing. I had an inch gap from my tail rubber was in my thingy. I was trimming brambles away so I didn't open it up so anyone else could cast. You know, it was awkward. But obviously it was worth it, you know, we got
Were
him.
you bivvying up on a real slope as well? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't make the swim or anything. It sort of come in and then it just, I suppose over the years, someone must have, you know, hacked it out a little bit. It'd been there for years and then it was like a bit of a sleeper that sort of stopped you going in. You know, you'd have your bed, your brolly, and then like I say, if you wanted to chuck, you'd have to take your brolly down. But yeah, you just sat there.
Yeah, you don't want to fall out of bed though.
Oh, no, if you rolled off there, mate, you'd be going, yeah.
Can we talk a bit about the waddle?
Yeah,
Because that's such an incredible campaign for a fish that I think we discussed it very briefly off camera, may have been caught only twice by the time you came round to.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know if they're caught smaller, but it never really had the angling pressure to get caught. I'd heard about the lake, seen a picture of this fish, 47 pound he was at the time, you know, massive bit of water in the backdrop.
It's Cotswolds.
Yeah, and the scaly one as well. Like, fucking hell, did you get a ticket for that? You know, it's only an 8-man syndicate. You got no chance, blah, blah. So I remember like ringing up, I think Claridge, spoke to Claridge. I was like, oh, if any tickets ever come available, here's my details. I'd be well interested in a ticket for it. I'd love to go for that. From speaking to my mate, he was like, you know, there's only an handful in there, really limited fishing bank. It just ticked a lot of the hard boxes, if you like, you know, Mission Impossible, here we go again. But we got this carp to try and get. And it really was, a few years later, phones rang, oh, we're extending the syndicate to 20 members, would you like a ticket? Yep. Like, got down there. That's when I kind of split it up with Stone Acres. When Bite Mark got caught, I moved on to there then. And yeah, you've, again, a massive bit of water, maybe 120, 130 acres, islands, split up. But the first place I'd ever fished with crayfish, didn't really know how bad they'd be, you know. But then soon met Mitch the crayman, and he's getting a ton of week out of there, and you're thinking, you know, they're bad, really bad. Like out the bag bottom baits, never experienced it, meshed them up the first night, put 5 kilo out with a stick, like I say, out the bag 20 mil bottom baits, and wound them in with just 2 soggy tights in the morning. You just think, shit, you're not going to have to sort this out. So it was on with playing on with tiger nuts and plastic baits. But yeah, you know, a lot of tench as well, a hell of a lot of tench. Struggle to keep your rods in the water. So with the tench in the crayfish and the very low population of carp, and not being able to get round, yeah, he was certainly against it. But waddle was in there, yeah.
How quickly did you get to grips with the stock and seeing these fish up close and personal?
It was only when I sort of took it upon myself to take the boat out, getting I just sort of met Mitch for the first few times now. I was fishing there, you know, I seen him sort of rock up, out in the boat doing his thing. And it was just on like, I think I see in the front of his van once a fishing magazine. I was like, oh, he's an angler. And got chatting to him, he's like, oh yeah, I do a bit of fishing and rah rah. But he was all there all the time in this boat, going round the whole lake, collecting all these like crayfish pots. And he sort of, I just thought, you know, I'll just stick the same colour hoodie on and same trackies, and his life jacket was always left in the boat. I thought, no, it's not him. So red hot day, like really hot day, you know, I think we're into June now, 30 odd degrees, flat calm. I thought we're gonna have a look. Oh yeah, I nearly broke the boat as well. Basically, it's a little bit different to a electric outboard. It's a petrol one, so fucking sorts it all out, go. So I'm looking at it now thinking, fucking hell. Obviously knocked it straight into gear, nearly sent the boat into fucking Bradley's. You know what I mean? Shot up the bank, yeah, sorted all that out, realised what I was doing, bang, away, went for a little pod around the lake. Massive 12-foot boat, little petrol engine on it. But yeah, went on the whole lake, seen about 17, I think I'm sure it was 17 carp. We saw 5 down the bottom of the bund, 12 behind the island. Probably half, you know, most getting on towards the stock. Saw all the ones that I'd seen pictures of before from the water. But yeah, it was an area, the weed was low, or just about coming up at that time. So there was a bit of a window to fish for these fish where I'd seen them. A long way out, I'd sort of got the nod. You can use the boat, but only in the dark. Don't let the boat club, because it's owned by, I suppose it's like wakeboarding sort of boats, you know, expensive boats flying around all day. But they own the lake apparently. It's like, they don't certainly like the fishermen there, do you know what I mean? But yeah, mega carp. But lucky enough, like I say, see it from that area. Joy for taking the boat out. Bit of a plan, went home. You know, I didn't have any braid at the time. I was never thinking, fuck, it's a long way. Put a £20 line on from the base. I literally, like, I think it's sub-line at the time, put it all on from the base. Got there with these 8-ounce grippers and tiger nuts wrapped in shrink tube, you know, cray-proof stuff. Mag light, sandwich bag, everything was sorted. Flew out there to the area where I'd seen them. I put a bit of bait in before I left, and I'd seen them 2 big mirrors just on the mouth of this island, really. And yeah, got 2 rods out on that spot, all baited up, back. It's just coming light at this point. And that was it. Then, you know, got the rods on long poles out as far as I can with the tips wedged under. You've got the power boats coming round, and the course that they took was quite close to the fishing bank. In the end, that's what stopped you from fishing out there. You know, the weed obviously come up, you just couldn't do it. But yeah, from that night, I think the rod was out there perhaps 20 hours. It was near enough midnight the next night. Single beat, ting, I said it did, snap out the clip, ran down. We got a couple of rods out there, and you, like I say, the rods were out. You bivvied up quite high up on the bank. So I grabbed the rod and I've started making my way back up, and basically just slowly pumped this fish all the way in. Luckily, it was mono and not breaks. I think had it been braid, I'd have lost him. Just see this mass coming towards me, jumped in the waders, netted him. There he is, waddle. I literally just, I think it's a size 4 stiff rigger, just literally, if you grab this lip and just went in and out, if you went like that, you just pull it out. I just pulled him literally 270 yards straight across the pond. Just in the smallest bit of flesh on the edge of his lip, got him. Yeah, crazy, you know, name was on that one. But yeah, from the same sort of swim, not the same area, got a series of bars that come a little bit closer. But from spending a bit of time in there, I saw a fish cruise up these bars. It's obviously a natural area they use. Found a spot amongst that, had an handful of fish from there. But I see another one from the boat in there. I just nicked in the orange fish, because he looked really orange in colour next to Waddle. But as big as him, only ever found one previous capture. He was like £31 in 2014. But he was certainly a £40 now. So I carried on a little bit into the autumn to try and catch that one. But I never did. I caught Waddle again. A couple of the other ones I caught. Like I said, the stock's low. There's not many at all. And you know, I'm trying to catch that one that had never been caught for that many years. Amongst everything else, you know, that was kind of, I never renewed the ticket, you know. I thought, right now,
Which must have been a bit of a gutter, really, because it's, again, another fish that would have been right up your street. An odd un.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, running across there.
Never been out to this day, has it?
No, still not been caught. But he's in there. I mean, unless he's been hit with a boat, it was a few years ago, that, or obviously there's a lot of otters in the area. But yeah, definitely, you know, when I got the ticket, we got screenshotted the little stockies that went in, 6, 8, 10 pounders, the Banksy stockies. And it was mega because you're catching these 28, 29 pound mirrors and you'd be like, it's that one, it's that one. You know what I mean? You'd find them amongst them, you see the scaly one, you see waddle. And sure enough, you know what I mean, amongst it, there's this orange fish, did a bit of digging. I think, like I said, that Phil Bunn you need caught it, 31 pound. That's the only capture that we ever knew of it. Like, so as far as I know, it's still an odd one, you know, a rare beastie swimming around in there.
Is Waddle still alive?
Yeah, he's still going.
Mega fish.
Yeah, mega, yeah. Crayfish eater.
And actually that lake was quite an important history lake in terms of the water park as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it went back a long way. I think all of the leany fish were probably dead by the time you went there.
I can't see there being any originals left in there. I mean, God, they'd have to be old. You know what I mean? But from as far as I'm aware, it did the Cotswolds first 40 pounder. You know, a lot of history with the place. It was, again, just that big wild pit. There's so much area on that lake though, they can just get away from you. Wood yards, private ground.
But actually you caught it quick.
Again though, you know, it was nip out of the boat. You see where he was. I mean, when you think about it, it was pretty obvious where they were going to be. You've got the boat flying around all the time, you know, big boat, powerful engines. You've got one island that the boats never went behind. Really weedy, you know, as soon as them boats were out, they'd get in there in the days and then they'd be out in that ground at night. So it was soon sort of learnt that from being there and watching them, you know.
Where were you off to after that?
No, you're asking, Barry.
I'm going to refer to my list. Hold on a minute. So on here I've got. So we've got. I'm gonna guess that it's Colin.
No, that was after Tatton.
Okay.
You've caught too many down, really.
You've caught too many fish.
It's been too many places.
Yeah, but the waddle capture probably just served to spur you on in terms of these big individual fish that, you know, you're now really quite getting to grips with.
Yeah, again, it's that kind of nature of fishing as well. I'm not solely doing that, you know, you go back to, I don't want to say social thing, but you're fishing normal pits, you know, people there, the socials are there. You know, it's quite lonely fishing, that sort of fish. I mean, like, you wouldn't see anyone else down there. No one else was really fishing it. It'd be one old Welsh boy occasionally used to see. But as a rule, you know, unless it was one of your mates popping down for a brew, you wouldn't see anyone. I
mean, you did sort of indulge a bit in social fishing because the winters would see you back at Christchurch, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
You know, occasionally.
I mean, I never like to not go fishing, you know. But then I'm not stupid to go and sit on them sort of pits through December, January and February. I mean, they're hard enough as it is in the summer. So yeah, it's a good chance to catch up with mates, and also, you know, there's some nice carp in them sort of places, and look the best at that time of the year. And again, the banks are quieter, so.
You had some real big ones, didn't you? Christchurch, certainly, the big carp.
Baby
baby perch or baby perch? Real mid 40 in the winter.
I think we had them both one trip. Yeah, and the box. It was a bit of a mad trip.
Yeah. And from memory, like the big inlines, like crush boilie, like small hook baits, like supple links.
Yeah,
quite
that
different
come from
really.
the winter before on another lake round here, Little Horseshoe. Mate had told me about it. He says, "Oh yeah, my mate owns it. Like going there fishing. It was running as a bit of a day ticket at a time. No one on it in the winter. And it's all glass fronted, beautiful houses round it now. You know, £1,000 a weekend. But the big in there at the time is, it might be a 40 pound. There's a real old fully in there, low 30s. So yeah, I had a bit of a crack on there. It's when I first started using like Manila and sweet corn, like crumbing it all up, and I had some really good results over there. I think I had 36 bites in like 3 trips. Lost the fully at the net, had the big one. So like when it comes to like winter fish, you know what I mean? That's what I've...
Solid bagging?
No, I wasn't then. It was just like a lot of sweet corn and Manila, almost used 50-50. But applying a lot of bait, you know what I mean? I was happy to,
give it
more than happy to, with that stuff, and sort of took it straight onto Christchurch. You know, 10 kilo a day, a lot, 5 kilo corn, 5 kilo crumb boilie on the spot. Then on that would be a solid bag. I'd always fish one on like a big lead with a short hook link. Whereas you get your solid, and obviously these spots would be quite small. So your solid would go wherever it went, and that demand, whether it's the left or the right, and then obviously you could work your clip around it. You just keep chucking until you got it right, like. But yeah, again, you know, loads of fluorocarbon, loads of putty. You're trying to be there without being there with the most effective, do you know what I mean, rigs that you could get away with.
And it wasn't, you know, for a busy lake, remember coming up to see you were fishing in the Plate, I think. Around that time, you think you just caught one, I think they call it a Simo, like a 40-pounder.
That might have been out of peg. Oh,
but it was quiet. For Christchurch, it was quiet. And did you enjoy that? You know,
the life buoy, I can remember it, yeah.
Do you think winter gave you a chance to go and explore waters that perhaps you wouldn't be going to in the summer?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it was on kind of like the Stoneacres ticket as well at the time. And obviously then it all changed to day ticket again, then all gone back. But it was, Stoneacres to Christchurch was a very different atmosphere. You know, you'd go across, you'd spend your time over on Stoneacres, and then you could see the traffic, you know, going up and down the path. Summer's just September, October, November, there's no one. Literally thinking no one's going over there. Like there's all them fish and no one's going over. Then you go for a walk and one on, no one on, sit, wallop, big and jumping out everywhere and you're thinking, fucking hell, I'm going to have a go at this, you know, and then you'd end up having a few. It was, you couldn't turn your nose up at it really. But as a rule, them lakes are rammed, didn't they? So you wouldn't really want to sit amongst it. You
say rammed, but then I know you also went to Linear and caught big uns.
Yeah, again, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can set that bit of fishing up, again, lucky enough I got in, I think that was when we were fishing Manor, an area, 3 sort of trips on the bounce, it was a bit of a build up and, you know, again, managed to get a load of bites over a short period of time and like Little Linear and the birthmark and Buddy Kempy's falling off at the net, you know, if that, a good sort of few bit of fishing, like, you know.
Spike as well.
Yeah, Spike, that one, yeah.
I mean, that Little Linear was cool from memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all about them 3, wasn't it? You know, birthmark, Little Linear. I was supposed to random when that one was in there as well. And then Kempy's obviously went massive. And
it just seems odd that you'd be there now.
Oh yeah, no, but it's, again, they haven't got them oldie sort of stock as it remaining really. I mean, I'd always, if that Kempy's was in there, me and my mate go on in the winter and have a go when it was in there, you know. I think you never know, you look, if something like that's swimming around in there, you can't not have a go, can you?
No.
And in the winter, they lended it. I mean, even now they're rammed in the winter. They can be very busy. If anything's getting caught, it's put straight over the, you know what I mean? Whereas years ago, that really wasn't the case. And especially with them lynch waters, if you had one, you could kind of keep it quiet. If it got busy, it was on you throwing it in your mouth, you know.
Yeah, and syndicates, it wasn't welcomed. Like, you know,
no.
If you're not making the effort to come down, I'm not going to help you.
If you're not on, you're not in the, you know what I mean? If you're not fishing, you're not in the know.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Same as like now, I mean, there's loads of lads that I speak to at Denton. My phone doesn't ring, I don't hear off them. Like occasionally, how are you doing if we haven't spoke for ages? The second I'm back fishing there, you're speaking, you know what I mean? You're speaking on the regular.
And that's a two-way street though, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'd never dream of think, oh, I'm going back to Denton. I'll give Fat Al a bell. What's been going on, mate? You know what I mean? Oh, where are they? You know what I mean? We don't work like that. But then equally, if I was on the pond and he was asking, and I was, do you know what I mean? You kind of, that's how, not just him, you know what I mean? Like, cluster of mates on there that sort of all act the same. If you're not on, you're not on.
So, in terms of Denton, in what ways has it helped you to recapture the social vibe, let's say, of a Reedsmere and the buzz for fishing for incredible looking carp like stonies? Like, how do you picture that? Yeah,
literally, yeah, it's a blend of both. I mean, it's not. No, it's pretty wrong saying it's a blend of both. It's not got the magic, certainly, that Reedsmere had. It's how old the mere is. You know what I mean? It's ancient mere. The trees that you sat under, you know what I mean? What you're around is very different to sort of sat around Denton. Especially Black Swan is very fresh, new. But it's because there's not just one that you're trying to catch. Although it boiled down to, you know, one of them linears and it's all about one of them. There's so many fish in there, you know, there's good, probably now 20, 40 pounders. When I first started, maybe 10, 40 pounders. You know, like I say, you're not just trying to catch one. And everyone's there, certainly an handful, putting in the same amount of effort and maybe travelling and stuff like that to try and catch them. So the social side of it comes because I'm not saying your guard's down. Like I say, we spoke before about this thing. You're never going to reveal everything. You're never going to tell someone that's going to affect your fishing. But equally, you're kind of a little bit more open than you would be on a pit where it's just one to try and catch. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolute sense. Yeah. But it became quite an attritional campaign on black, didn't it? In the end, because you were catching well.
Yeah.
Certainly before they opened the islands up, you you had something going with that extreme range fishing.
An edge, yeah, I suppose.
But still, the linears wouldn't come. Those two big linears wouldn't come.
No, I mean, they certainly have a habit of getting caught out the bay. I mean, I'd always knew that and sort of come to learn that on a lot more with my time on there, watching the captures happen when my time was on the lake. But I've always been a big one of them. You know, they definitely have preferred areas, but at certain times of the year, they're using all that pond. You know, they haven't just been caught out there, they've been caught down the other end, they've been caught from over there. So it's never a case of, I just thought if we can get in that area, catch as many as you can, it's a numbers game, isn't it? They're going to turn up. I hooked one out there, you know, 100% I did, like 100%. I hooked one of them out there. Caught petties out there, caught a lot of the other big ones out there. But before that year when I had that cluster of bigger fish from that area, I'd gone through a lot. Doubles, low 20s, 30 pounders, like low 30 pounders. I can remember like I'd actually thought, that isn't the area to get the big ones. None of the big ones, you know what I mean? I thought there's just too many fish out there, they're at it before anyone gets a chance sort of thing. And then that spring it did, 90% of the big ones that got caught out the lake got caught from that area. Linears, no, but you know, a lot of the other ones. So yeah, it was always, like I say, you're wading through them, you're catching mega looking fish, big ones as well. And especially that year, that's the year, like I said, I had the unit out there, the big tail, I had a good number of big fish. 100% sure in my own mind, lost one of them linears out there, but the big one, spike. And then that kind of came to a bit of a close. But it was like the last trip, it was like petties was like the last fish from that area, if you like. As the lake was to shut and it reopened as island swims, there's people trying to replicate that range game with maybe not the same experience, a lot of crack-offs happening. Obviously people using tangle-proof rids like chods getting sent into the pond. With the unit, you know, he was got there 44 pound, got caught at 36 pound with half its face missing. Clearly been trailing down to this, so enough was enough, you know. I mean, they've always said on there what you could do is you could cast, then you could follow your line out, pick your rig up and then put your, you know what I mean? So you could never take your rig further than what you could cast. Which you sit there and blatantly do it, you know, properly. Put it down for lads. You knew that couldn't fish past 120 yards. They were out in the boat at 170, big winds, whack it out with the bay alarm open, tighten up the line to it, do you know what I mean? So it just got beyond a bit of a joke and enough was enough. No more fishing, I know what'll stop it, swims on the island. And that's what happened, you know, in that area. It did a lot of fish, but rather than people having to risk light monos and thin braids out there, it was just a little lob now, you know. Much safer for the carp, but obviously they spread out.
And the kind of irony is that despite all the fish you caught from that area casting long when it was your edge, you had to wait until the island swims were open in order to catch one of the big linears that you had so desired.
Yeah, from out the bay anyway, when I knew it was going to happen. Like I said, they got so much of a habit. Say again?
Do you regret that stubbornness?
No, because then he wouldn't have caught half the carp he would have caught. The thing is, like I say, with that bait, it's a very different bit of fishing. They just jump all over you, sheet all over you, and sometimes a bite in 5 weeks out of there. It's weird. Whereas you'd only hear them at night in these areas, or see them in the mornings. But if you were on them, see the bays are big. You've got humps, bumps, deep water. Pretty sure, you know, it's your lines going through that deeper water, collecting sediment. They're just so aware that they're getting fish for. Whereas you go outside of that, you've got a lot of flat 5 foot, 6 foot. So, you know, your lines are pinned on the bottom. You're fishing much more effectively, as in line lay is concerned. And so, therefore, your numbers of fish, do you know what I mean, are coming. Yeah, that bay, a nightmare. They can be a nightmare to go in there. Like anywhere, when they're having it, you can catch them. But certainly, there's 1,000 shows to one bite in that area.
How did it feel when you finally felt like you might be attached to one of these? Did you know that you had spike on when you finally caught it?
Well, I see it showing. When I finally caught it, or when I was going to say like when I lost it the first time. Then, yeah. Well, no. I mean, all the big fish in there, especially when that weed's low, they are powerful fish, you know. And I could, like, every battle I've had, like with petties, the unit, spike. They've always been, certainly, you kind of know in your heart of hearts you're attached to something a bit special. And there's always like a drama that'll happen, it'll wipe the other rods out, or there's always something going on, but you just having a quiet word like that, please stay on, let this one stay on, let this one stay on. And yeah, more times than not when you're saying that and it's one of them in the net, yeah, you kind of know.
But this time, when it finally came to
Unreal. Just, I mean, it was all in the dark. The big linear, yeah, it was just sort of, well, I fishing the zigs. I'd had fish on me, someone had come across, walloping the rods over, and I was like, fucking hate this place. I had enough of it, do you know what I mean? Especially there, because everyone's chucking for the same bit of water. It done me head in. As I'm sat there, literally, I was pissed off, fuming. I was like, I want to put my rods on that shelf. He's basically fishing the shelf. It's just tight, and it's just a bit of a nightmare, and you think, there's 90 acres of water behind me with no man in it. And then here, everyone's chucking for the same tennis court size. But I sat there a little bit fuming. Wallop sees a show well in my water. He can't go nowhere near it. I was like, sweet, shallow water. Put like a pop-up rig out there and 2 low zigs. Nothing. I had them all over me. I'm watching them sort of like back, so I'm nothing. Then matey boy catches around the deep water. Then matey boy has around the deep water. So like, not seeing a thing over them. But I'm looking at them over me and I'm thinking, now persist with it. Nothing. There was a bit of a weather change. And I mean, like, I'm watching them, groups, like dorsals popping out, they're on me. It's about 9 o'clock, my mate's put down for a brew, and I was like, sat there, and it was yinging on me, thinking, they've had 2 bites of that deep water, not there. So I'm going to put them all on that shelf. Obviously knew all my depths and like to what clip, like that one, it'd be like a 7-footer, a 9-footer, a 4-footer, because it goes out longer and the shelf's a little bit more so. So yeah, I re-chucked them all, probably about 9:30 in the evening. Obviously pitch black. Mate left about 11ish, and yeah, probably nodded off, well, fast asleep, and then woke up holding on to my right hander. A lot of the bites in there that are just use big leads, as he dropped the lead on the bite. With that one, I just remember like waking up to did, got out, and it's just off. Still fish quite tight clutches, and yeah, it's just tick, 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 bit of a battle out there. But again, I think I hooked some sort of 36 fish over the winter. 36 fish over the winter, and then they all feel big, don't they? There's no weed out there. You hook a 30-pounder, it's showing you around. But this one, like you see, it was just a big. You could hear it explode on the surface, 30 yards out, and then it just flat Roger. You're thinking, could be a big one. And then there's always the worry. You think, what if the foul looked? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's trashed the other rods, gone on a Madden, completely in the sort of like what light there was. I could just see my mono glinting up off the other rods. I've just undone the bail arms, lines pissing off too, like them 2 reels. That thing's going, I think at any one point it only takes for that to get cut up and you cut you straight off. But no, luckily all went well, out in the water, waders, just netted this big mass. I had no torch on me, I was just sort of like come up to the boards. On my 3rd rod, I've ripped out the bookrest and just sort of whacked it behind the net, so it couldn't take the net with it. Gone up, got the torch, and just, honestly, just flicking it on that and just, fucking hell, it is. No way. Like, just that most surreal. It just kept getting bigger, and then you're on its side, it's definitely in. It's spike. Just massive, just unreal. Yeah. And I kind of always knew in my heart of hearts, I thought, you've grafted for him, waited a long time to go through the stock. But when you get him, it'll be worth it. He'll look incredibly massive, so just keep going. And there he was, 54 pound, looking incredible in March and massive. It was.
You said right at the start of this that you visualise the moment of capture.
Yeah, quite often.
How many times had you done that?
Over and over, honestly, so many times. It was, obviously they were getting bigger. It wasn't a turnaround of the tickets. I mean, not many people drop the ticket for there. But as they're getting bigger, there's a lot of people that sit on tickets, and there's a lot more lads fishing for them, and you lost that edge. Now everyone's keen. You kind of just felt like, well, he's got as much chance of catching it as me, or he has. And every time you went away and come back, you're like, it was a lot. I'll be honest, you're thinking, there's 400 miles in there. I've got to try and put it in one of them. You'd just be like, let's go. You'd have to just have that, Otherwise, you just would burn out, wouldn't you? You're thinking, I'm never going to catch it. But yeah, you just keep picturing, I will.
So, I mean, that was, 5 months ago or whatever.
Yeah.
The belief is still strong, Myles, that you can find a way to that one mouth.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean,
even after doing it for like 20 years or whatever it is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's how much you're thinking about it, innit? You know, if you're thinking about something constantly, you're visualising it, then that's going to push whatever's required for you to go to get that. Anything in between is just a journey to get in there. Do you know what I mean? There's no, what if I don't? It's like, I'm going to die or it's going to die. That's the only thing that's going to stop that, or you're going to get banned or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's, yeah, there's no
Well,
way.
I think the other thing that springs to mind is that life could get in the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I've not been in a position where I haven't got any children. I mean, there's always have girlfriends and dogs and, do you know what I mean, bits and bobs like that, but I've never, work's got in the way. You know, like I was on about before, I had to take 12, 13 week breaks from fishing to get stuff done. The whole time it's on your mind, but I won't tease myself and dabble at it. You know, it's 3 hours away, I can't. Don't want to know, don't want to speak to mate boy in the pond every night. This is all that matters, and now it's this. You know what I mean? And then I can't flit, you know, it's all or it's nothing. So I have to treat it like that. So yeah, things, of course, things have got in the way, but I won't, like I say, I won't let it affect me. I'll just cut off and I'll go back to it and I can give it my all.
I mean, in a sense, the fishing you've had down here where we are now is like a little holiday sort of fishing, isn't it? I mean,
Oh, it's brilliant.
yeah. Was there a sense that you can go a bit easier on yourself having caught spike this year?
I mean, I'd wanted to go over to White Swan for quite a few years, and I was never going to stop. I mean, I'll still return to Black Swan. There's still 10, 40 pounds that I've not caught in there that have come through the ranks. But, you know, we've sat over Black, hearing all the stories of White and how it's logistically so different to Black, and, you know, the lads on the White be calling Black the Big Easy, and, you know, and, oh yeah, if you get 10 bites a year, you know, rock hard, different on it. It's not like over there. You know, it almost kind of makes you want to go over there and be like, well, they're just Carp. You know what I mean? It's, people make it hard for themselves, don't they? So, yeah, I was quite buzzing to go over there. I suppose when you've got a bit of time to think about things again, you can analyse things. It's not like you're going on to somewhere where you've never read about, heard about, talked about or seen that's completely alien. Do you know what I mean? You've always got that information that's building and sort of logged, you know.
Again,
it
like
gives you ideas that you want to push forward when you get to there.
Like you said before, a lot of the groundwork had gone in like passively over the years. You'd heard people, you'd seen lads come over who'd fished it, and in little bits and pieces go in.
Yeah, about that. I mean, certain tricks and edges that people have used on that lake and done really well. Obviously, it's there to be done. Do you know? And outside the box stuff.
You did spectacularly well as well, didn't you? This year on White.
Yeah, caught a few. Yeah, caught a few.
As a difficult lake, that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, 15 fish maybe. 15, 16 bites. Lost a couple.
I mean, I don't know those lakes intimately, but that kind of sounds like a year's worth of carp on White.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a bit of time as well. I mean, I'd finished a project. I was kind of like 3 nights a week at it on the Black after I caught that, and then, went straight on to White 2-3 nights a week. It was kind of like zigs early. The lake's quite busy. I didn't really feel like I wasn't enjoying the zig fishing, because on Black I know what ground is where, and whereas there you could be walloping in the middle of a weed bed. Of course it's rammed. I don't want to be having a lead around and then swap proper zig out, fishing.
What even you, vastly experienced that you are, felt a bit like, oh, I don't want to foam it up here?
Yeah, because it's not only messing everyone else's chances up, but it'll also be doing mine, because there's not really a move on and stuff like that. So it was kind of get a couple of rods out and you're fishing, and unless I saw a better opportunity elsewhere, then we'll just stick with that. But then you kind of find your feet, you're getting ground, you leg it up the other end of the pit where no one is, doing a bit of leading up and stuff like that. Yeah, and soon you're in the swing of things. You've got your own little spots rocking, and
And how did you find the fishing? Because there's the fearsome reputation that it has, which is backed up by lots of people catching very few carp in a year.
Yeah.
How did you find the reality of that?
It's full throttle. It's intense fishing. Again, it was very much like Reedsmere was, But as you were growing up and learning that, there's more to carp fishing than that. And every man and his dog wants to know what you're doing, where you're doing it. I'm sure when you leave, there's people leading up your spots. I see it firsthand, someone will put a bit of bait in a swim when they leave. Might be 10 spoms, and someone will go in there and have a result. That's over my bait. He's only in there because I baited up, or he's only in there because I had a fish. There's a lot of quiet rod hours with a lot of people fishing it, which equals to a lot of bullshit being talked. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line of it. But yeah, no, I loved it over there. It's mega, beautiful place. Carp are mega, some mega people over there. Yeah, it's got a good atmosphere. It's just the busyness of it is literally one in, one out. You know, you could put a lot of prep work in. I can't think of nothing worse than driving to a lake worrying, oh, is he on my spot? Is he on my spot? Is he on my spot? You know what I mean? Actually, you felt like you needed so many, so if you had 4 set up, then you might get 1. When you're trying to catch a couple of fish and you're thinking, I'm helping, or you could be setting things up for others. That certainly, if you baited 4 swims, the others are getting fished if you ain't in them. You can only fish 1 swim, can't you?
So what did you do? Did you have to farm a few different swims in the end? Did you accept that you...
Just watching, like mad really, like watching, letting them tell me where I needed to fish. Yeah, just constantly observing. And again, you know, it'd soon be equivalent, like you get in an area, quiet area, put a bit of bait in when you leave, no one about obviously, you come back, a few bites from that area, and then you'd almost be descended on. But in the preview, you know what I mean, you've got a couple of looking at down there, so when that, you can leg it down there and then nick one, do you know what I mean? So you're trying to, just get away from it as well as build and learn. And
it's like the old chess thing, trying to stay that move ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with White Swan, there's a lot of very, very good anglers fishing it, you know, whether that be good anglers for the intricate detail, spot finding. You know, there's a lot of keen lads on there. Yeah, very good anglers that fish in it. But there's a lot of them that'll think nothing about getting as close as they can to you. Like they may see that as a good angling, or wanting to know where your spot is, or what you're doing, or why you're having them results that they're not. You know what I mean? They want to know. But yeah, you can never keep nothing quiet.
Is it the closest to Reedsmere in that sense that you've fished since then? Yeah,
just on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot more intense than the Mere, you know. The fish and the sizes weren't there, do you know what I mean? Equally the amount of, with bigger fish comes more serious anglers, doesn't it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, has that changed in the time that you've been doing it at this level, the intensity and the numbers of anglers who've got the intensity and have got the time now potentially as well?
There's a lot of people that go fishing, but I think people like the idea of them sort of places, but in the reality of it, it's slow going. It takes a lot of graft to obviously get them results. And there's places where you can go and catch 5 or 6 £40 a year, shall we say, and they're nice looking fish. Them places are kind of getting more and more and more, aren't they? Like expensive syndicates and so on. For me personally, I mean, I like having that quiet fishing, but then I also like having tickets like Denton, where you can go back for the winter, catch up with friends, and still have a chance at catching some awesome fish that I haven't caught. Then equally, you know, you area some pits down the road. That, you know, I've mooched around this area for a long time, and actually walked around the pits that I mooched around recently, and you know, new things come to light, and it's like, I might look a picture of that one. What in there? You know, and you're just thinking, have a little walk round. Obviously, big signs up, can't do this, can't do that, stay away from here. But you know, one swims around in there, and that's the buzz, you know, for a little bit. So I think you've got to mix it up, and as long as you're enjoying it. I mean, if I'm not enjoying it, if I didn't want to go, I wouldn't go. If I didn't, you know, I've never forced myself. I always go because I buzz off it and I want to go. You know what I mean?
I do.
You know what I mean, Buzz?
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did recording it. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest content. And don't forget, use the code Myles Gibson when subscribing via our website, where you'll find plenty more just like this.